Hello. How's everyone doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? You guys doing all right? Am I blurry? I don't think I'm blurry. I have a collared shirt with another collared shirt because, when it gets later in the week, you're always shorter on clothes. Hello. It's nice to see everyone. I'm really excited, man. We're on episode 5 now, and like every week I just can't wait. Just can't wait for Thursday, man. I'm just thinking about it throughout the entire week. I'm waiting for it. I go to sleep thinking about the show, and just want to learn. I want to learn. I'm excited to learn without even playing the game. I barely even play ladder anymore. I just watch replays. And I'm like, okay, I think I could deal with that strategy. I mean, I can't control the units, but I think I know how to deal with the strategy. And that's what I'm hoping to give to you. I'm hoping to give to you the knowledge that I'm gaining through watching lots and lots of replays and totally nerding out throughout the week. And I'm really enjoying it. Really enjoying it. We're a month through. This is the second month. Can you believe it? We had our interview with Bidu last week, which was good. I really enjoyed it. And if you guys haven't seen it, although you may just sort of click past it in the YouTube VODs, or you may have clicked past it on Twitch, because it's like, give me an interview with Grubby. I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from. And, we're working on it. We're working on it. But I encourage you guys to go and check it out because we covered some interesting topics. And it's not just, what's your favorite pizza? It's like we get into some cool stuff about esports and about specific players. We talked about Hitman for a while. There's a lot of interesting topics we covered, and I'd like to have it be more of a conversation than just go through someone's entire history that you can just look up online for the most part. So it was a nice conversation. Raymond, thanks for the sub, buddy. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. A plus 100%. You're perfect. I appreciate that. Always got to make sure the audio's all right. With that being said, always give me your input if you think something could change. We're now a month through. The month that we just had, that's what the structure is going to be. So we have first week, pro player analysis. Second week, we'll have viewer replay review. Third week, another pro player analysis. And then fourth week will be an interview. And then we'll switch the races. So last month we did Orc and Human. And then this month we're, of course, doing Undead today. And then Night Elf on the third week. If you guys want it to be changed, if you think it could be improved, if anything could be improved at all, you should always let me know on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Is that what you kids use? Maybe not kids on Facebook, but, YouTube, of course. I read all the comments, and I appreciate all the comments. And with that being said, next week will be viewer replay review, so send me your replays. We'll talk about that at the end of the stream, but Carson at backtowarcraft.com is where you can email me the replays. You can join the Back to Warcraft Discord, which if you go just backtowarcraft.com, you can find all those links. The Discord, you can find my email there, all the good stuff. Follow me on Twitter, and you could just tweet them at me. I don't know if you could send me a file on Twitter, but you could try your best, and we'll figure it out. If you have a replay you want to send to me, we will find a way for me to get that replay, and, I'll try to do about 5 or 6 replays every time we have one of those shows. So we're getting to the point where I'm getting sent a lot of replays, so I sort of have to scan through them and find the ones that we can learn the most from. But if you got a doozy, it'll make it through, and we'll watch it next week, man. We'll watch it next week. I'm a boomer, and I use Facebook. Absolutely, and you should too. You can get all the Back to Warcraft updates on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or backtowarcraft.com. You can check all that stuff out, man. Very cool. Very cool. All right, episode 5. Today is Undead Day, and who better to talk about than Happy? Who's better? We could talk about 120, 120, you might even say. You might even say Eero, you might even say Terra, but we're not going to talk about him. He's very, very good, but we're going to talk about Happy. And when we talk about Happy, there's always a couple of caveats you have to make. One, when you're analyzing Happy, and this is true with all pro players, sometimes there's little things you have to tell yourself when we're trying to extract information that we can then use in our own game. Sometimes Happy's just going to do things that you're not going to be able to do in games. He's going to get into positions, and this is why he's such a successful player. He's going to get into positions where anyone else in the world would lose, and then he's just going to out-micro them, and he's just going to win the game. So I'm going to be very careful that when we're analyzing Happy replays today, to point out when, it's all right if you lose this fight, but Happy's going to win this fight because he's Happy. Okay, he's down by 30 supply. He's just going to kite with no coils and somehow win the fight. No one else can really do that. Only maybe 120 would be able to do something like that. So I'll try my best to point out situations where it's like, okay, this is just Happy things, we'll call it. So that's one caveat. The second caveat is currently Happy being a European player, and he doesn't play on, extremely high ping, and who can blame him being a micro-based player. a lot of the replays, or in fact all the replays in like the last year, have been against other Europeans. So we're not going to be able to see him against Moon, not going to be able to see him against Loliet, because this will be Undead against Night Elf today. It's mostly going to be Foggy. You know, who else? There's Please, there's Sonic, there's Lil DC. So that's pretty much who we have to choose from. You know, star-shaped players like that. Arc, of course. There's a lot of, but he doesn't even play against North American players. So it's really going to be Happy against Europeans, which is a little bit unfortunate, but he is the best player to learn from an Undead perspective. He's on the cutting edge of the meta right now. But we just have to take it with a grain of salt that we're not going to get always the best quality replays, but Happy against Foggy is pretty high level from the Foggy side of things. He's a very skilled player, Foggy, with a good idea of the meta and a good idea of what he should do, and pretty solid micro behind it as well. So there's still a good amount of stuff to learn from these replays. Any questions so far? Any questions so far about that? And then we'll jump into what today's episode is about. Did the camera get really out of focus? It might. I might be able to fix it. I could fix it, but should I risk it? Should I risk it for the people? Should I risk it for the people? Oh, ba-boom. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. All right. That might help a little bit. Why not older games against Asians? That's a very good question, because there have been patches. And although I can watch those old replays on old patches, the game isn't the same. The game isn't the same, and the meta does change with patches, although they may be slight changes. Wisp detonates are changed, Rod of Necromancy has a bigger cooldown, stuff like that. You know, Aura's been nerfed, you know. They're not huge changes, but they are important enough to shift the meta one way or the other. And this particular strategy we're going to talk about, it actually started in one way, and we'll get into the specifics of that, but it essentially started with Huntresses, and then it eventually switched over to them opening with Archers. So the meta within this sort of Keeper Mass Air strategy has shifted, even over the past 6 months. So we're going to look at the most current replays, and those most current replays happen to be Happy against other Europeans. Okay. So you guys ready? You got your notepads? As always, get your notepads, because I'm going to get my notepad. Ba-boom, boom, boom. Ba-do-do-do-do. And there's the title of the episode. Happy versus Keeper Mass Air, or how Happy deals with Keeper Mass Air, Night Elf Mass Air, whatever you want to say. And I made this title Mass Air because you see typically Hippogriff Riders into Fairy Dragons. Although the main bones of the strategy is the Fairy Dragons, you could call it how Happy deals with Keeper Mass Fairy Dragons. But we're going to see Hippogriff Riders as well, so I figure Mass Air. But for those of you wondering, no, we're not going to see Chimeras today. I'm sorry. Although it is becoming more and more standard in this meta for Night Elves to go Chimeras, you know, with the slight buff they had recently, we're not going to see any of those units today. So when I say Mass Air, I mean Hippogriff Riders, Fairy Dragons. Okay. So we know who Happy is. Keeper. What are some of Keeper's strengths? Why might a Night Elf want to go Keeper of the Grove against Happy, or against Undead in general? And why might they want to pair that with Fairy Dragons on top of that? What are some strengths of both of these things? The Keeper and the Mass Fairy Dragons, Mass Air. What are some strengths? Tell me in the chat. What do you guys think? Because I got three main ones, and they, of course, can all be broken down into probably three more, each of them. Easier early expos, which you need for air. That's 100% right, because if you entangle once, you can win the game. Entangle is very strong. I really like that point that someone just made. You need an expansion to get a big bulk of air for this particular strategy. That's a very good point. A lot of early aggression, absolutely. Map control, magic immunity, absolutely. Magic immunity is another interesting point. Fairy Dragons cannot be Coil Novad, a major strength of Undead, right? Harass with Keeper and buy time for developing air. A lot of very good points in the chat. You could take out statues. Sure, yeah, that's good. It's very good. It's a very good focus fire composition. Mass Fairy Dragon is very easy to pull off due to fast training time. Yes, you can get, again, a big bulk of this army very quickly. Yeah, a lot of really good points in chat. All correct. As always, you guys are on point. So I broke it down into three. There might be some more, but here's three. And we'll see. So the first one would be Keeper allows for early map control and fast creeping. So let's break that down. Entangle is, of course, what means the map control. If you bring units out, they're ghouls or fiends. That's what you can build early as the undead player. If you bring out ghouls or fiends, the Keeper's going to entangle them and he's going to kill them. If he's got archers, if he's got huntresses, and he's got entangle, you're going to lose those units. You can try to coil them, but you're still going to lose them. Because of that, the undead is sort of forced to stay close to their base and creep a little bit more passively. And if they go aggressive, they sort of have to only use their DK. And there's another side of this where it gives you map control, is that undead has to respect, and we're going to see this a lot, has to respect the sort of run-by harassment potential of the Keeper. If at any point during the tier 2 tech, when you only have 5 acolytes, because generally you'll be going ghouls, so you want to have that 6 scout acolyte, if at any point the Keeper just runs into your base and kills an acolyte while you're teching, well, then you're missing 20% of your income for the entirety of your tech. And there's really not much you can do unless you're there to defend the Keeper when he gets there. You need your ghouls, you need to be able to coil the acolyte, you need a Nerubian tower to defend against it. So you really need to respect the potential for the harass early of the Keeper if you're the undead player. Because if you lose an acolyte during tech, it's going to be very rough. So that's what gives you map control. And fast creeping, of course, any hero that has lots of summons has very fast creeping. Treants are very good. You also have the bonus of being able to like pull camps with the Keeper and then entangle the big creep and focus it down. And as long as the creep isn't above level 5, the entangle is very, very good against the creep. So we'll see that pretty commonly, actually. You see that very often on Concealed Hill. You'll see it on Amazonia for the middle Kobold camps. So it's very efficient at creeping as well. So that's the first point. The second point, quickly able to get up to high supplies and overwhelm. This is someone pointed this out in the chat. Well, generally you're going to pair the Keeper and Fairy Dragons with an expansion. That's going to be a win condition, is having that expansion, and that's going to be what we're trying to counter most of the game as the undead. And Fairy Dragons are pretty cheap, and they don't take very long to build, so you can get up to very high supplies, 60, 70, 80 supply, and there gets to be a point at an amount of Fairy Dragons where the undead just kind of can't win anymore. Once you get up to like, I won't say 70, because that, there probably is still a good chance for the undead to win fights when they're at 70, but once they get up to like 80 supply Fairy Dragons, which is pretty easy, once you've mined 2,000-3,000 gold off a expansion as the Night Elf, you can get up to 80 supply Fairy Dragons in no time at all. Once they get up there, it's very difficult for the undead to win a fight, because everything just sort of dies, and you don't have enough fiends for anti-air. Your destroyers can't live, so you can't devour the entangles with the destroyers. So, you can very easily get up to that critical mass that can then win you games, regardless of micro, in most cases. And overwhelm is, of course, an added part of that. Mobile army and very capable of harass. Well, we already kind of touched on the harassment, but that's not just true for the early game during the tech. It's true always with the Keeper. And mobile army, if you have a full air army, it's going to be very good at harassing. So the Keeper can come in and tangle acolytes, and tangle ghouls, use treants to push into the base. The Fairy Dragons could be behind the gold mine, and you're going to need towers. You're going to need town portals at all time, because if you run by into an undead base, that's the main weakness of undead, is that their acolytes are always exposed, and they only have 5 of them. They can't replace other lumber workers onto their gold mine. They're just going to lose the acolyte, and then they're not mining with that acolyte until they literally reproduce it. So this is something we're going to see very often, is the Night Elf in this position is going to use their Keeper and their air units to constantly harass the undead. And in doing that, they're going to be able to avoid a fight and mine even more from their expansion, and then get up to that critical mass where we just established. Once they get up to 80 supply, 75, 80 supply, it's very difficult for the undead to win a fight in really any position. Okay, so that's the strengths of the Keeper. Now we sort of have to focus on, okay, we know the strengths. We can't just give up, right? There is a world in which we just say, okay, I guess I just won't play the game anymore. If I see a Keeper come out of the altar, I guess I'll just leave right away. You could live that life, and some people choose to. But, this strategy is not broken at all. It has strengths, and it has, difficulties. I think a lot of lower level players struggle with this strategy, and it's obviously good at lower levels and still up to highest levels, because we're going to see professional players play it right now, this Keeper Fairy Dragon style. But it's not broken. I really don't think it's even necessarily the most optimal strat for the Night Elf to play. I think it's just a little bit, difficult for people that aren't happy to beat, because it requires a decent amount of micro, but it also just sort of requires really good scouting. But there are ways to deal with it, and when you figure out the ways to deal with it, I think most night elves are not going to play mass fairy dragons anymore. Okay, so here's some of the strengths that we can counter. This is the way we can counter those strengths. Okay, and there's 4 of them. So early dispel, of course, tier 3 plus destroyers. This is essential always against Keeper of the Grove. So as soon as we scout a Keeper of the Grove, we automatically have to say to ourselves, okay, I need tier 3 and destroyers as soon as possible. Whereas if you scout and there have a Demon Hunter or a Warden, the other options for the standard opening heroes is, of course, more with Night Elf, but, there's 3 main ones. If we scout a Demon Hunter or a Warden, we can, stay more on tier 2. Maybe we can get a Naga and pressure them with ghouls on tier 2. We don't have to prioritize this tier 3 tech as much. But against the Keeper of the Grove, we need to get tier 3 and destroyers immediately, because or else we established before we can't leave our base. They have Entangle. We can't really pressure them because we're always going to lose units, and we always have to be afraid of run bys because we have no way of defending, the Treant and Entangle harass in our main base. So tier 3 plus destroyers is essential as fast as possible. We also need the ability to defend our base, so destroyers would help with that, but also an early Nerubian, we're going to see that very often. As soon as the tier 3 tech, or tier 2 tech, is started, we're going to see a Nerubian. There's a couple of other ways. Staff of Teleportation on the Death Knight. Very good scouting as well. That's going to go into everything here. Very good scouting, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what to scout for in the future. But yeah, very good scouting to defend the run-bys. And keeping the Night Elf off a critical mass of air. This means essentially stopping the expansion before it's mined that 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 gold, or at least stopping them from mining fully efficiently, and also taking fights. I think this is an important point because a lot of people against this strategy, against Keeper in general, might be afraid to take fights, especially if they're down by supply, which you very often will be down by 20, 15 supply against Keeper Fairy Dragons. But you have to remember that if they're only at 60 supply and you're at 50, they're not at that critical mass yet. So you should still try to take a fight, and even if you lose 10 supply and they lose 10 supply, now you're 40 and they're 50, and they're that much further away from that critical mass that they need to consistently win fights. So it's good to take fights, and it's also essential to pressure that expansion until it's dead. You need to die for that expansion. That's it. We're going to see Happy commit to that expansion over and over and over again, and this is true always against the strategy. You push that expansion until the expansion is dead or you're dead as the undead in a video game. We're going to see this. We're going to see Happy sacrifice literally everything to deal with the expansion to deny the elf from getting on this critical mass, because without the expansion, you can't get to that 75, 80 supply Fairy Dragon numbers. You just can't do it. You just can't do it on one base. So if you kill that expansion, you chop the head off the dragon, and it's over. It's over. The Night Elf kind of has to transition into something, but they don't have the economy to even transition into something. What are they going to go into? Mountain Giants and the Bears? They need to build 2 lores. They need to get upgrades now, and you're already as the undead pushing to their base. So if you're able to stop that critical mass, stop the expansion, take fights, it's very good. Very good against this. And then good scouting. And this is just at the bottom, very little, but this is the most important thing I think that we're going to be covering. Today might as well be called how Happy is really good at scouting. Because Happy is insane at scouting. People talk about his micro, and you could say, scouting is micro because you're getting the most efficient skeleton movement and all that, and you are moving the unit individually and keeping it alive for a long time so you can get as much information as possible. But Happy's scouting is unbelievable, and it's not just he's consistently sending skeletons out or whatever, or destroyers to scout or illusions to scout. It's that he knows what information to look for at specific times, and then he knows how to react to that information gained at specific times, which is very important because a lot of times people will scout because they were told to scout over and over again. Then they gain this information. Okay, he's expanding at this time. Okay, he's going into these units. Okay, his Ancient War is in this position. Okay, he's got this level on his secondary hero. His army's this big. And they won't know what actually to do with that information. And they'll be stuck in this stasis of, okay, I'll just sort of creep my Death Knight to level 4 even though I've gained all this information that I don't know what to do with. So it's very important to know what to scout for and how to react to this information. And here's some things that you should be scouting for, and I'm going to keep mentioning this over and over again. You're gonna hear me talk about scouting a lot today. So here's a few things. Okay, so the hero, first and second, is very important. Of course, the first hero, well, if we're going for a ghoul opener, which Happy will most often go for a ghoul opener, you don't have that scout acolyte, right? So you're not going to see their hero immediately, their first hero, whether it's keeper, demon, or warden. So we have to scout for that because we don't know it's going to be Keeper of the Grove Mass Fairy Dragons. If we don't know they've built a Keeper of the Grove, of course they have other strategies. And if they were doing other strategies, we'd have to, make some changes to our plan and our timings and maybe our unit composition. We wouldn't have to be as defensive, for instance, to get it against a Demon Hunter. We could be much more aggressive. And as I already pointed out, you can stay on tier 2 for longer against a Demon Hunter and a Warden, maybe even get a Naga second. So it's very crucial to scout for this first hero early on and then react to it being a keeper or a different hero. In this case, it's always going to be a keeper today. The second hero, also important to scout because just because there's a Keeper of the Grove doesn't mean it's going to be mass air. For instance, if you scout when their second hero is coming out around the 6th dot of night, which we'll talk about a bit more when we get into the replays, if there's a Demon Hunter coming out of the altar, that will typically mean they're just staying one base and going into lores. That's very common for Night Elves as well. You go Keeper first to pressure and creep very quickly, and keep the undead honest in their base, and then you go Demon Hunter second and just transition into a standard lore game. But for instance, if you see like an Alchemist or something, or a Naga maybe, you're probably going to see either like mass archers or mass air, right? So it's crucial to scout the first and the second hero, and this will give you lots of information just based on what the first and second hero are. Okay, and then expansions are, of course, once you scout for that keeper and you see that it's a keeper, you have to say, okay, where and when will the expansion be coming? Because if they do go for an expansion, that will automatically pretty much confirm it's either going to be mass archers, which needs an expansion to work, or mass fairy dragons, mass hippogriff riders, which needs an expansion to work. The only strategy they're going to do with a keeper that keeps them on one base for the majority of the game is this Demon Hunter second lore style. So you've sort of narrowed it down to 2 styles once you've scouted A, the Keeper of the Grove, and 2, the expansion. So it's very crucial, and you should continuously be scouting for expansions as well. Once you've killed the expansion, because I mentioned Happy will just, die for this expansion. He'll sacrifice everything. He'll lose every acolyte in his gold mine, but he'll kill the expansion, and then he'll go back home and defend. So once you've killed that expansion, or lost the game, you need to be continuously scouting for another expansion, because the Night Elf needs to get up another expansion if they lose their initial one, if they're going for this mass air style. So that's crucial too. Tech, of course, we want to confirm that it's winds or lores or mass archers. Winds would mean mass air, of course. Lores would mean bears, dryads, mountain giants, combination of all 3, whatever. Or mass archers, which is typically paired with an expansion and then a second Ancient War and tier 3 tech. So we want to scout their base and just see what units are going. Happy's going to be able to make some assumptions based on the players he's playing, because he plays a lot of the same players over and over again, and also past experience with those players. But he also just sort of knows based on the archer numbers, based on what they're creeping, when the expansion's being built, sort of what they're going for. So Happy might not always scout for the tech. He might just know intuitively what his opponent's going for, but you should scout for the tech and confirm, is it winds, is it lores, is it a second Ancient War for mass archers? You should confirm that, although Happy might not always. And the fourth thing we should scout for constantly throughout the entire game is economic harass. So Acolyte harass, sappers, Zeppelin drops. Acolyte harass, we established, might even happen as early as 2.5 minutes into the game. As soon as they hit level 2 on their keeper, they might run straight across the map and go for acolytes when your tech has just started. So that's what we need to scout for, very crucially. Sappers is very common. Instead of defending their expansion, we're going to see the Night Elves go for run-bys into your base paired with sappers to try to kill ziggurats. And Zeppelin drops, of course, are going to be crucial for harass as well. And this is something you need to always scout for. From the second you see that it's a Keeper of the Grove till the second the game ends and one of you types GG, you need to be scouting for them running into your base. Run-bys, hit and run, economic harass, whatever you want to call it. You always need to have this in the back of your head that this might be something they're going for, because they're not always just going to take straight up fights. So you need to be always scouting for this. Always, always, always. What about mass huntresses? Someone says in the chat that can happen. That could be paired with the Keeper of the Grove, but you would typically scout that very early because you would see a second Ancient War before they're even teching. So again, another reason to scout for the tech. You see 2 Ancient Wars, you see no tier 2 tech, you probably know there's either an expansion going up or they're going mass huntresses, and then probably, Ancient Protector rushing you or something, right? Any questions so far? We talked about the strengths of Keeper, how Undead counters those strengths, and then, the basis of what we want to scout for. Are there any questions? We're going to watch 4 replays today, so that's one more than we typically watch, and one of these replays happens to be very long, so we might even go over the typical two or so hours today. It might be a little bit longer, but there's some nice replays. There's some really nice replays. And we're gonna jump into it. Sorry, my camera's a little bit. Boop boop boo. It'll be all right. You guys won't even be looking at me in a second. Okay. So, without further ado, I bring you game 1. All right. I want to point out a couple of things first. We have some things in the game that I've added. Because, why not? It's my stream. I can do what I want. Down here, we have our scouting checklist, which we just talked about. These are things that you always want to be scouting for throughout the game. Hero, expansions, tech, and economic harass. And these are constants. The economic harass, we already said, is a constant, right? The tech, we want to see if they're transitioning into something. Expansions, we want to see if they re-expand. And hero, we want to see their first and second hero, and pretty much where it's positioned at all times. So these scouting, people might be confused what to scout for, but, you can break it down very simply. There's more nuance, of course, when you get to very high levels. There's always going to be more nuance. These are oversimplified rules, but this is generally what you could scout for if you don't know what else to scout for. Okay. And then over here we have what I call the order of operations. If you remember that from school, it's like you multiply the brackets and the exponents, and then you multiply and divide, and then you add and subtract, I think is what it is. Order of operations. But in this case, it just means the order in which you do things in the game. And again, an oversimplification, but I like to break it down into step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. What should you do? And as you get better against the strategy, get better as a player, there will be more nuance. There's always going to be more nuance introduced, but generally, the first thing you want to do is safely get level 3 Death Knight. By safely, I mean you want to make sure the Keeper's not doing anything crazy, while also creeping safely up to level 3. Once you've achieved that, you'll generally be at tier 2. And then you want to safely gain value while teching. We're going to talk a lot about this, safely gaining value, which means we're not going to overcommit to doing things. We're not going to push when we're on tier 2. We're not going to go for big creep camps when our Lich comes out. We're just going to try to gain little itty bits of value, little creep camps, killing an archer maybe, killing a wisp maybe, but just little bits of value because we're still trying to get up to the destroyer to get to our third goal, which is the tier 3 timing against the expansion, which is generally going to happen around 9 minutes. So you can look up here at the timer. Around 9 minutes is when we're going to be pushing, when we have that destroyer form that we mentioned earlier for being crucial dealing with Keeper of the Grove. So we're going to do a timing against their expansion. And again, they need an expansion. If they're going to go for Keeper Mass Air, they need an expansion, right? So this is going to be a constant in this strategy that we're trying to counter. And then after we've killed the expansion, we just want to creep and defend our base simply. We want to defend our base against run-bys, and we just want to creep the map because our heroes are going to scale better into the late game because a Keeper does not scale well in the late game. It's good early, but it's not good late because there's Dispel, whereas our heroes, Death Knight, Lich, maybe Dark Ranger, is going to be very good in the late game. So as long as we're one base, we're happy to just creep and not take too much economic damage. So simply just 4 steps. And then, if they get an expansion up again, just go back up to step 3 and then go back to step 4 after you kill their expansion again. Pretty basic. Again, oversimplified, but we're going to see Happy generally follow these 4 rules, or these 4 steps, and the scouting rules. Okay, here we go. So, Happy. Here in the top right. And in the bottom left, we have, of course, Foggy, which is going to be a very common player we're going to be seeing when we're studying Happy replays, because these two play each other a whole lot. And Happy, this is going to be a consistent build that he does. He went for Crypt, then Altar, then Zig, delayed his 5th Acolyte to get this Zig up, and then he's going to build the Acolyte. This is the standard Ghoul opener. You may say he's going for ghouls early. How many ghouls? Either 8, 9, or 10. This will put you at, if we look at Happy's supply, he'll be 30 maximum supply. If you have 8 ghouls, you'll be at 26 supply. If you have 9 ghouls, you'll be at 28 supply. If you have 10 ghouls, you will be at 30 supply. So that's, you can go 8, 9, or 10. That will depend on the map, because we're going to use these ghouls, of course, to creep. But, we'll change it around. We can afford any number of those, but sometimes you want less, sometimes you want more, depending on the map, depending on the creep routes. But a ghoul opener, 8, 9, or 10 ghouls. Okay, Death Knight coming out, of course, and, this is the title of the video, Keeper of the Grove, from Foggy. Archer to Lightning Shield creep here. Here's the first question. What do we do when this Death Knight comes out of the altar? What are we supposed to do? We know that we want to get level 3 safely. So how can we get level 3? What are some available camps to creep? Let's think about it. Like, what can we safely creep? For instance, we're going to use some ghouls because we're going for a ghoul opener, but we could creep maybe this, probably this green camp, or either of these. So if we're assuming it's going to be a keeper, which Happy, of course, still needs to scout that it's a keeper, but if we're assuming it is and we want to creep level 3 safely, what should be the first camp we creep? Well, we don't want to go this far out on the map. We don't want to go this far yet out on the map. We probably just want to take this, and then maybe this even. But we could maybe be a little bit daring and go for this or one of these and try to get level 3. So that'll typically be, if we're trying to creep safely to level 3, that'll typically be what we're trying to do early on. Yeah, because the Lightning Shield creep is not going to be harassable by the Night Elf. Even if they run straight across the map, you're not going to be able to stop it as the Night Elf. So the Night Elf will have wasted time. So this is the most safe. Whereas any other camp on the map, this or these two, it's going to be harassable by the Keeper, by the Demon, by the Warden. So Foggy, not the best Lightning Shield creep. It's going to be a little bit slow, but it's all right. It's going to be a little bit slow. Wisp, seeing everything. Happy not one to go for Lich expansions, but... Okay, that was an attempted coilless Lightning Shield pull, so a slight mistake from Happy. He did mess it up, but not a big deal. Everyone makes mistakes. We'll keep an eye on, of course, Happy going for 2 Ziggurat's before teching, so he can get that 8, 9, or 10 ghouls. We'll keep an eye to see how many ghouls he gets. Happy summoning skeletons. And of course, you're not going Ted Fiends. Ted Fiends would give you that 6th Acolyte that you would scout with. But Happy, because he hasn't scouted yet, as soon as he has a corpse to summon a pair of skeletons, he doesn't creep with them. He immediately sends one to go scout. So what is this one going to go scout? Well, it needs to find the first step of scouting. You need to figure out what hero it is. So then you can determine what strategy your opponent is doing. So he needs to go and find the hero of Foggy with this skeleton. That's the job. Along the way, we're going to see him maybe just look for some wisps. He's going to look here for a wisp. Maybe he could look here to confirm there's a wisp here. But he's most likely going to go down here and then maybe go over here if he doesn't see the hero yet. And just really try to find that hero and confirm that it's Keeper. That's the first bit of information we need to get. So that's what the skeleton's going to do. There we go. Happy. Could creep this as well. He is indeed going to creep that as well. Foggy doing something nice. We talked about the Keeper being very efficient at creeping. And he's going to pull this camp. And he's going to creep it with the Tangle and Treants. Right now he has 2 supply in units, whereas Happy is using, like 6 ghouls. But Foggy's able to do this with pretty much just his hero. And that's the real strength. And now, Happy confirms it's a Keeper. What do we do with this information when we've confirmed it's Keeper? What are some things, now we've had our first piece of scouting information, what are some things we know to do, we know to be true? There's 1 that's very simple, and 2 a little bit more complicated, and 3 even more complicated, perhaps. What should we do? Well, of course, we now know we need destroyers as early as possible. That's a constant. So we know as soon as this tier 2 tech is done, which has now started, we know we need to go immediately to tier 3 and get destroyers as early as we possibly can. That's crucial, because or else we can't do anything. We can't go out on the map. We're going to lose fiends. We're going to lose potentially our heroes. So we need to get tier 3 as early as possible. Another thing we need to do is we need to confirm or deny if there's an expansion. If there's no expansion, we're going to expect to see a demon hunter and some lores in the main base, right? And if there is an expansion, then we're going to expect to see either mass archers or mass fairy dragons. Where will the expansion be built? It'll be built right here. So we need to eventually send a skeleton here to see if there's an expansion. If we don't see one, then we should send another skeleton and confirm that, because now that we know it's Keeper, we have to find the expansion. Against the Demon Hunter or Warden, we could do this anyway, but it's less likely, of course. And then another thing we can do is we can try to creep level 3 safely against the Entangle. Try to not take too much damage. How can we creep safely? Well, we can find the Keeper, as we have with this skeleton, and make sure that it's not going anywhere near our creeping, and then creep safely while scouting for the Keeper. And here we go. And that's all gained through one skeleton, guys. One skeleton warrior has gained all this information for us. Nice coil to steal that. Entangle, not the best entangle from Foggy, I will say, but that's alright. We've seen where the Keeper is, so Happy is taking this camp really quickly because he knows that Foggy can't stop him. Now this is a little bit aggressive from Happy, but he expects Foggy to go down and creep. A little bit of star sense. Happy gonna send his ghouls back. He's gonna go to the shop, and he's going to buy an item we're gonna see over and over again. Gonna see over and over again. A staff of teleportation. And notice in the meantime, Happy is in fact, the next time he summons skeletons, so immediately the first time he summoned a pair of skeletons, taking it from 4 to 3, he sent it to find the Keeper, to find the hero, and he found the hero. The second time he summoned a pair of skeletons, taking it from 3 to 2, he tried, or he crept with it, right? He crept with it. And then the third time, he crept with it here while harassed with the Death Knight, and the third time he summoned skeletons, he immediately sent it down here to scout the expansion, because he knew the timing of the expansion would be around now, and he's going to see it. So then he's ruled out every strategy pretty much other than mass archers, which we would typically see a second Ancient War kind of soon. And, you know, you'd typically see a tier 3 tech, maybe even a Hunter's Hall for upgrades, which you will with mass air, but, you know, he's ruled it down to 2 strategies. So then he knows in the future, around the 6th dot of night up here, right now we're at the 2nd dot when it gets to 6 dots. Or wait, 5 dots? It's not a proper clock. 6 o'clock on a clock when it gets there. The bottom, 6 o'clock position, 5 dots. It's going to be, that's when the tech is going to be done. And that's when the winds are going to be coming up, typically, if you do a 2 Moonwell tech. So that's what we need to, that's what we gain out of this skeleton once it sees the expansion. What the Staff of Teleportation does is we're talking about staying safe. This Staff of Teleportation does so much for us throughout the game. For one, if we are creeping, we just crept this with ghouls while harassing with the Death Knight, right? If we do this at other camps, say we bring our ghouls over here and creep it while harassing with the Death Knight, if we lose the Keeper and the Keeper shows up here to creep jack us, boom, we can staff to our ghouls and help them out with coil, with aura, with a town portal maybe even, right? So it allows us to do things on the map that aren't risky. Whereas before, if we didn't have the staff, if our ghouls go all the way over here and our Death Knight's over here, that's very risky. But now it's not. Another thing is we can go aggressive with the Death Knight onto Foggy's side of the map, maybe even go for this expansion cancel. If Foggy shows up in our main base, it means we don't have to blow a town portal. We can just staff back. It also means if we're aggressive with the Death Knight and we get our Death Knight surrounded by an entangle, we can just get out. It does so many things for us. It keeps us safe in so many ways. So this is a crucial item. We're going to see Happy buy this every single game. He's going to get this. In fact, he always buys it against Night Elf, even not against Keeper.
A player's forces are under attack.
And there's the scout we talked so much about. Could have gone and scouted the army, but instead Happy knows. And there he sees the expansion. And now all he has to do, or all you should do next, is scout what the tech is the next step. Happy's level 3. He's got the level 2 coil. He could now try to kill some archers. He could try to kill some wisps.
player's
Notice
forces
he
are
got
under
a Nerubian as soon as his tier 2 finished. This is Happy will actually get this as soon as he can afford it once tier 2 is started to help against the Keeper of the Grove harass potential. Then he gets Graveyard, then he gets his third Ziggurat, and then we'll talk about what he does when he hits tier 2. But yeah, he gets that Nerubian right away. Always, again. He gets the Staff of Teleportation always, and he gets that Nerubian always. Not just against Keeper, but it's especially good against Keeper. He coils the Keeper because he's got full mana, so why not use it? Foggy's Archers are going to the tavern to buy a hero. Could be a Naga, could be an Alchemist. In this case, it's going to be a little bit different, but it doesn't change anything. Could Happy have canceled this expansion? No way. He would have had to pull ghouls, and he probably would have lost most of them without ever actually getting the kill. So, not likely. Tier 2, about to finish. Remember, 6 o'clock position on the in-game clock, or 5th dot, is going to be when you would like to scout the main base, when you should scout the main base, but Happy is going to have a little bit of star sense. He's trying to go up here to, like, I think greedily take this away, but this is going to end up being a mistake. Foggy goes for Panda. You could argue it's not the best option, but it's all right. Happy's really out of position. We can notice this would be a mistake if he didn't do something like this. And this is one of those Happy things where if you went for this mercenary camp greedily and you got caught out, you probably would have lost 4 ghouls, as would have I. But Happy is just going to surround the Keeper. So, all right. Tier 2's finished. The priorities are tier 3 as fast as possible. He built his Lich as well a little bit earlier, but that was a mistake because he could afford the tier 3 earlier, and he just didn't do it. And then Slaughterhouse third, because you can still get 2 statues in Destroyer form before the tier 3 is done, essentially. Or you can get the 2 statues, before the tier 3 is done. Then you can upgrade Destroyer form at tier 3. So Lich, tier 3. Probably going to build a Fiend soon. We'll talk about that when he does. But Foggy's going to go down, and he is trying to creep this expansion out. 6-minute mark in the game. Typical expansion timing. And right now, Happy, still on 8 ghouls. He's building the Lich. He's got 8 ghouls. That's how many he built. That's how many he still has. Foggy trying to creep the Panda up to level 3. Happy coming in. And remember, this is the point in the game we have level 3 Death Knight where we're just trying to gain little bits of value. So if we can gain 1 creep camp safely without losing units. This was greedy, as I pointed out. And Foggy could have punished this more, but Happy landed a really nice surround. So this was greedy going for by Happy. But at this point, just going to gain little bits of value. Can I get an Archer? Can I get a Wisp? Can I delay the expansion from rooting? Can I delay the expansion creep? Can I gain maybe this creep camp without taking any damage from a Keeper of the Grove harass? Things like that. Little bits of value, but not overcommittal. Right? And here's the Fiend. Here's the Slaughterhouse coming up.
The player's forces are under attack.
Just little bits of value. And there's a little bit of value. Coils an Archer. Entangles, but he's got the Staff of Teleportation, right? He's got the staff. He can always get out if he gets surrounded. And it's even very hard to surround, a hero with Entangle. Panda gets level 2. Lich is here, but he's got Coil. He's got a Staff of Teleportation. There's no way the Lich and the Death Knight are not taking any risk right now. Whereas this Fiend, what could this Fiend and these ghouls do right now? What could you guys do with these? He's got 8 ghouls and a Fiend. You would think, he should do something with these. What are you doing? What are you doing? They're lazy. That's 19 supply, just chilling. What could he do with these units right now? What do you guys think? Is this a mistake from Happy? Not doing anything with all these units? Someone says nothing. No Destroyer. He needs wood. He needs wood right now. Yeah, decent. I mean, he could get the wood with maybe just 4 ghouls, maybe even 3 ghouls. He'd have enough. What does he need? He needs Destroyer form. He needs Web, once he knows that it's Fairy Dragons or Hippogriff Riders. He doesn't really need much else, so he needs maybe 300, 350 wood, and as long as he has 2 on lumber after that, he'll be all right. But yeah, he can't do anything with these units, because if he brings them over here, the Keeper's going to start killing everything. He's going to bring these Archers out. He's going to entangle this Fiend. He's going to kill it. The Archers are going to run back to the Moonwells. He's going to entangle a Ghoul. He's going to kill it. Right now, Happy can't do anything with his units. He can't creep anything either. He couldn't creep this. If he brought them out to these camps, it would be too risky because he's too aggressive. He can't do anything. So it's right for him to just leave these units in his base until he is close to having Destroyer form. And in the meantime, little bits of value. He can gain little bits of value with just the Death Knight and the Lich. With just the Death Knight and the Lich, we already see him kill one archer, and we see him delaying this expansion from rooting. That's more than he would get typically by just sitting in his base or trying to creep and then losing a fiend to entangle. Right? Little tiny bits of value.
A player's forces are under attack.
And the Panda, he knows, of course, would love to creep up to level 3 as well. So he can delay that. And, you know, typically against Mass Air, you would like to have level 2 Lich, but it's not needed. I would say level 2 Coil is definitely needed against Keeper Mass Air, but level 2 Lich for Frost Armor is great, but it's not, like, essential to win the game. I would say this Panda being level 3 is essential to winning the game. Here's, of course, Hippogriffs coming out. These will make Hippogriff Riders. So every archer you're able to kill is the undead. You can think of it not as one less archer, but literally one less Hippogriff Rider. Because then they'll just go straight into Fairy Dragons. Hippogriff Riders are really what makes this army strong initially, is having, because they do a lot more damage than Fairy Dragons, is you have this initial big boost of damage in the way of, you know, 5 or 6 Fairy Dragons. Happy's looking for Foggy. So he hasn't done anything crazy yet. He hasn't done anything crazy. He actually, in fact, missed where Foggy went. His scouting was poor here. But it's not a big deal because it's just little bits of value. And he's going to check about 5 camps and eventually find Foggy. So it doesn't matter that he's late. He's still finding him. Going to try to get this. Foggy's going to get it. But again, another archer. That's another Hippogriff Rider that's not going to be used. Notice he brings his statue. He doesn't bring these fiends. He's got 3 fiends chilling. He's got 8 ghouls chilling. Is it 7? No, it is 8. Okay, it is 8. Good. And he's got, you know, he's just brought his statue. Because why? A statue can't get entangled. It can't be mana burnt. There's no demon hunter. I mean, it could take a little bit of damage, but it's going to morph into a destroyer eventually anyway. It could just be coiled. And this is so cool. He's just going to bring the statue. Because why not? Why not? He's completely safe. This can't be entangled. He's got a Staff of Teleportation to get his Death Knight out. He's got Coil to save the Lich. He's completely safe, and a Coil Nova is always going to kill an archer. So before there's Hippogriffs, he could just pick apart archers, and then there's really no initial army. So all Foggy has is just this expansion, which is now mining, but he's really got no army other than that. In the meantime, Happy's pumping fiends. He's about to be tier 3, which he is, in fact, with destroyers. He's about to have this huge army, and he's still getting value while just trying to get up to this huge army. And Foggy is just desperately trying to creep, and he's desperately trying to get up to these Fairy Dragon numbers, which he hasn't been able to get yet. So that's 2 archers so far. 2 archers when, you know, it's all gravy, as I like to say. Coil Nova on a Hippogriff Rider. This is bonkers. Look at this. Look at this. What are you supposed to do? He pulls the creeps to try to ensnare it, but he misses it. But it doesn't matter. Coil Nova, that's essentially 3 Hippogriff Riders that Happy's killed when he had nothing better to do. Just Coil Nova. And that's what prioritizing level 3 Death Knight, that has now used the staff yet again, beautifully, to get an orb. Getting level 3 Death Knight early on, this is what it allows you to do. Yeah, you're allowing him to get level 3 Keeper early, but in this sort of mid-game when Foggy can't really do much about this harass, you can gain a lot of value from the harass. And here it is. We're at 9 minutes. Destroyer form is about to be done. Happy has 2 statues. One will become a destroyer. He's got a Lich that will have orb soon. He's got 8 ghouls he's pulling. 3 fiends with, I imagine, web. He's going to get Frenzy. I imagine he already has web. Frenzy for the ghouls. Even if he doesn't have web, Frenzy takes 45 seconds. So this will be another 15, 17 seconds. Or it's halfway through. Another 22 seconds, I should say. And then web takes 30 seconds. So even if he hasn't researched web yet, it's such a quick research that he can get it whenever. He just needs to be able to afford it lumber-wise, which he has 700 lumber. So this timing, because Foggy is on essentially half the army he would be, and the expansion was delayed, and Happy has already level 3 Death Knight, the only thing Foggy can really do is do a run-by. He can't actually fight this army. This army's too strong. This army's too strong. So what is Foggy's only play? It's to go for a run-by. And you will notice when Happy goes for this timing, this 9-minute timing against the expansion, with destroyers, with the 3 fiends with web, with the ghouls being pulled, with the orb, pulling all the boys, he's going to, at the same time, scout for a run by. Because he knows that Foggy can't defend this. He killed essentially 3 Hippogriff Riders without losing anything, just mana. And he only did it with Coil Nova. He knows that Foggy can't defend this expansion. So he's scouting for the run by. And he's got Aura on his Death Knight. He can get back to the army, and the army's going to have destroyers. There's nothing. Foggy couldn't even win this fight right now, even if the Death Knight wasn't here. So this is what Happy's scouting for, and this is very nicely done. And this is going to be a consistent thing he scouts for around this time.
Our town is under siege.
Here's the ghouls. Ghouls with Frenzy, very good against the Tree of Life. It's going to be very good at killing it. We see this is beautiful as well. He can afford it now that he's hit everything that he needs. He's got Web, he's got Frenzy, he's got Destroyer Form, he's got his Orb. Right? He doesn't get a 3rd hero because he's already strong enough without the 3rd hero. He's attacking this Ancient of War. Foggy's not defending it. He would have already seen the army be here ready to defend. He sends his Death Knight up to scout with the Orb, anti-air. He can now attack air with the Orb, and he's getting a Spirit Tower at home. Fully ready for Foggy to go for this run-by, which Happy is well aware is Foggy's only play. And although Happy might take some damage, in exchange he's going to be able to kill the expansion, and he's still going to be able to do a decent job defending back at home. Which is so cool. He's aware of when Foggy's strong, and right now Foggy is not strong. Foggy needs time before he's strong. So he's only got 1 play. He's got 1 play, and here's the 1 play. And the Death Knight's already here to defend. The Spirit Tower's about to be up. There's a Nerubian. And, like, if there was nothing here to defend, if there was just a Nerubian, maybe all 5 Acolytes die. Maybe a Sapper is purchased. But as it is now, with the 2 towers, with the Death Knight being here, Foggy just has to Town Portal. And we already established this is not a fight that Foggy can win. They're even supply. You can't be even supply with this strategy and win. And I mentioned earlier, there's going to be situations where Happy just wins off micro when other players may not. This isn't one of them. This is a very winnable fight by any standard. You know, assuming you're against an evenly skilled player, this is very, very much an easy fight to win. Even if all the ghouls die here, it doesn't even matter. Like, it would be nice to not feed more experience, but the Panda's already 3. If all the ghouls die because you don't micro like Happy, it does not matter. They're not essential here. They're just sort of nice. So Foggy tries to defend, he loses the fight, he goes back into the base, but there's a Town Portal for Happy. It doesn't even matter. He's going to go back and defend with only his Death Knight. A Sapper is purchased. This is one thing you have to be ready for. But Happy, this is why the Death Knight goes back as well, deals with it. Even if Happy loses 2 Ziggurats here, he's alright. He's about to kill the expansion, and then, you know, as long as he doesn't lose all 5 Acolytes, he's still in a totally fine position. Again, if all the ghouls die, it doesn't matter. Foggy's trying to hold on to the expansion, but in the meantime, he's not mining, so Happy's totally fine with the expansion living as long as it's not mining. Death Knight's not even here. Happy can still win the fight. And you could still win the fight too. There's 4 Fairy Dragons. Don't be afraid. The Death Knight's coming back. Like, maybe you lose this statue. It doesn't matter. Imagine if Happy didn't have this statue. Wouldn't be a big deal. You may lose this Fiend. Imagine if Happy lost this Fiend. It wouldn't matter. You'd be down 1 Fiend and one of these 2 Destroyers. You still have 2 Fiends. You know, Foggy has, what, 3 Fairy Dragons right now? There are some units that Happy is saving that may be difficult to save, but they wouldn't have an impact on the game past this point. 2 ghouls coming. If both these ghouls die, would it matter? No. Is Happy going to lose them? Probably not, because he pulls the Destroyer and he's ready for the Entangle. But if you lost them, it wouldn't matter. There's still a Town Portal on the Death Knight. This is crucial to always have, because now Happy's going to kill the expansion, and he's going to be ready to go back home right away. Always be ready for Sappers. There's probably going to be another Sapper. And I imagine Happy is staring at his base right now. Staring at his base. And indeed he is. Because that's the only way. He realizes that's the only way that Foggy can win this game. Is he needs to Sapper 2 Ziggurats, and he needs to kill all 5 Acolytes. That's the only way. Two more units are going to die. These destroyers are over here. Who cares? GG. And that's it. So there's replay 1. What a beautiful game from Happy. Right? What a beautiful game. Incredible. Yeah, this game was not close, right? And was there anything miraculous that Happy did? He scouted well early on, right? He scouted very well. The surround was very good. Yeah, for sure. The surround was very good. But would that matter? So Happy would have lost, if he didn't surround that keeper there, Happy maybe loses 3-4 ghouls. So he essentially has 4 less ghouls for that timing at the expansion. Does that matter? Does that matter? Does Foggy instead decide, I'm going to defend this expansion because you have 4 ghouls instead of 8 ghouls now? I don't think so. There's still the 3 fiends with web. There's still the destroyers. There's still the orb. There's still level 3 Death Knight. It doesn't matter. Those ghoul losses, that was just a nice play by Happy that got him even further ahead. But there wasn't really anything miraculous. He even missed the scout when he was harassing with the Death Knight and the Lich. He missed Foggy. He checked like 5 camps before actually finding him. And he was late for the creep check, but he still managed to get essentially 2 archers and a Hippogriff Rider. And then he just hit a clean timing. So what did he do well? He pretty much scouted really well, understood what the strategy was, and understood what timing he needed to hit. Pretty basic, all things considered. And he doesn't get himself in a position where only Micro will win the game unless he absolutely has to. Right? Unless he absolutely has to. Panda just feels nearly useless. Yeah, I think that Alchemist is probably better. But again, I asked the question, would it matter if there was an Alchemist in that game? Would, say Foggy even kills those 4 ghouls and he has an Alchemist, level 3. Does he still decide to defend in that position? I don't think so. I think it's exactly the same. And what is Panda better than Alchemist at? Well, better at hitting the base. And we saw, even with the Panda level 3, when Foggy went in and tried to hit Happy's base, he still managed to get nothing done because Happy was there ready with the Death Knight. And he sold his Staff of Teleportation. But for instance, you don't have to sell the Staff of Teleportation. Foggy hits your base, you just staff back. You know, you don't need that 72 gold. You don't have to sell it, just sell an item. You know, sell slippers of agility, right? Okay, so there's replay 1. So that was pretty much like a perfect game from Happy, right? He didn't really make many mistakes other than missing Foggy. Missing Foggy when he was scouting with the Death Knight and the Lich, right? That was the only mistake he really made. He landed the surround. He had a good creep route. He even stole a creep early on. He had a clean timing against the expansion. He didn't lose any ghouls early on. No ghouls were lost. We're going to see throughout these replays Happy make a couple more mistakes over and over again. And we're going to see how he reacts to making these mistakes. And we're going to see if they in fact even matter. And in one replay, he's actually going to make a lot of mistakes. He's going to make a whole lot. Pokey, Tower Taker, thanks for the raise. I appreciate it. Hey, we got a €10 donation from Swerte. SWERTE_S. I appreciate that. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I appreciate that. Hey, Taker, man. Appreciate it. Are there any questions in the chat? I think this is a very played against strategy. So I think there is a lot of opinions about this strategy, and there's of course a lot of opinions about both Happy and Foggy. So are there any questions before we go into the replay too? Because I think this is it's a spicy strategy. It's a very spicy strategy. Thanks, bud. I appreciate it, man. And of course, I will answer actual questions at the end. But for now, any questions about what happened in that replay? Any advice? Never focus goldmine on expand. Yeah, don't focus the goldmine. Force them. What we're going to see Happy do when, you know, of course his initial attacks work, but your initial attacks aren't always going to work against that expansion. What you want to do, though, say you attack their expansion for a short amount of time, right? You're not able to kill it with that 9-minute timing with the 8 ghouls, 3 fiends, 2 statues, and a single destroyer. Say you're not able to kill the expansion. What you want to do, force them to repair the expansion, kill as many wisps as you can off the expansion before having to go back home to defend your base if they're playing hit and run with sappers and keeper and everything. Kill 3-4 wisps with Nova Coil and then go back home, because you may not kill the expansion right away, but you want to minimize income from the expansion and make it not cost efficient for them. That's your main goal, and if you can kill their expansion, then it's great. Then you probably win the game. But you're not always going to be able to kill the expansion, because sometimes you have to go back home. You can't just lose every Acolyte and every Ziggurat and expect to win because you killed the expansion. There is a point in which you need to town portal. You need to send your army back. But you should try to get little bits of value. Kill wisps. Force them to repair. Will or have you analyzed Happy's losses versus Foggy? I did analyze some of his losses when I was finding replays for this. Maybe one of those is in here. Maybe not. I wouldn't want to spoil anything. Maybe one of the losses is in here. But there are some losses of Happy losing to this strategy. And we can talk about that as well. But yeah, there were some. I watched a lot of replays for today. Watched a whole lot of replays. Okay, good. So let's move into replay 2. Boo, 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 boo. And this isn't going to be Happy against Foggy. This is going to be Happy against, a very good player, but a player who Happy is arguably much better than. But the strategy will still remain the same. Happy won't make any adjustments just because he should win against someone. Right? Just because he should win, you don't change anything. The strategy is the same. The ideas are the same. You still have to respect your opponent. And we're going to see his opponent actually put him kind of on the back foot early. So this is going to be Happy against Please, who's also Russian. Yeah, also Russian. So we've had a Russian, a Ukrainian, and now another Russian. Please is a very, very good player. Very good player. Maybe not as skilled as Foggy, but still a very good player. And we're going to see him put it on. We're going to see him put it on against Happy. So here's replay 2, Concealed Hill. Boom, Altar and Crypt, the same opener. How many ghouls can we get, chat? What's the range of ghoul numbers we may see in this game? Depending on what the map is. Have fun. Everyone's having fun. I'm having fun. There's no luck in this game, though. No luck allowed. 6. A little bit on the low side, but maybe. 5. A little bit on the low side again. Sometimes we see Happy make 4, but that's with the Happy Fiends build, which is, we won't talk about that in this episode, but there is a build where Happy builds 4 ghouls and goes for early Fiends. 9, 12, 8 to 10, Brownie 420. Cheers, bud. You got it. 8 to 10. 8 to 10, that'll put us on right now. We're at 7 out of 10 supply, but when we reach 30 supply maximum, is it going to put us on 26, 28, or 30, depending on if we have 8, 9, or 10 ghouls. Oh, a little bit spicy. Let's talk about this. What's this Ziggurat doing? 2 purposes for this Ziggurat. 2 purposes for this Ziggurat. What might one be? What might one purpose be for this Ziggurat? Just this one. Just this one. This one has a purpose too. And everything should have a purpose. You can think about how to get the tiniest little bit of value out of everything. And both these Ziggurats are placed here for a reason. Yes. Crashing 2, defend against an air attack from behind. Absolutely. So this is just, although, again, someone asked in the chat, why is he going ghouls against Keeper? Well, he doesn't know that it's Keeper, right? He might think it's Demon Hunter. He might think it's Warden. You can't just do a strategy and just blind counter always. So, you could argue maybe going Ted Fiends is better against Keeper, but Happy prefers to go ghouls overall against Night Elf. Right? And in this case, you might not always need this tower in the back of your gold mine, but in the case that it is Keeper Mass Air or Zeppelin drop with bears, stuff like that, it's good to be able to upgrade a tower to defend your gold mine back here. Similarly, this is good to be a Nerubian. You could even put it up here as a Nerubian, which we established last game on Amazonia, that it's essential to have a Nerubian to deal with what we know is going to be a Keeper of the Grove, potentially harassing our base. Another thing there is, and this is a little bit sneaky, is he's spreading his Ziggurats as well, which kind of a constant against Night Elf is going to be Sappers. It's especially potent with a Keeper of the Grove with Mass Air, with Mass Fairy Dragons. But if there's Sappers, you don't want to have your Ziggurats lined up. This is a mistake a lot of people make. Happy even made it last game, because Happy's not perfect. He makes mistakes too. His base build maybe not perfect last game. But you don't want to clump your Ziggurats because if there's a Sapper comes in. Me and Bidu were casting a game 2 weeks ago where somebody got against Night Elf 4 Ziggurats killed to 1 Sapper. And is there any reason to have your Ziggurats clumped together? No. No. This is good for a tower. This is good for a Nerubian. You could put one right here, and that would also be good for a tower. Also put one right here, it'd be good for a tower. Put one right here, good for a tower. Put one right here. You know? You don't need to clump your Ziggurats. You don't. There's no real reason to do it that I can think of. So, already some things to be learned. Ghouls being produced. Death Knight on the way out. Of course, it'll always be Death Knight. Keeper on the way. Archer on the way. So if we're happy, again, remember we want to scout as early as possible to see what hero it is from our opponent, because we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't have map hack. We don't know it's going to be a Keeper of the Grove yet. We need to see what hero it is. Aesthetics. That's a good reason for clumping your Ziggurats together. And I think that's actually a brilliant point. A brilliant point. And this is kind of maybe not essential to what we're talking about today, but that's so funny. Some people sometimes, they just want to look cool over actually being optimal within the game. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes you just want your base to look good, even though there might be reasons for it to not be functional. And sometimes we have to make sacrifices of how cool we look to sort of, just win the game. Like maybe you shouldn't go for that surround that you wouldn't be able to hold anyway, just so you can prove to everyone that you can sort of surround. And this is true very often. So that's a small point that someone makes in the chat, aesthetics, but that's definitely true. We have to make sacrifices of how cool we look in game to win. Okay, very cool.
A player's forces are under attack.
You look good, you feel good. And maybe there's an argument the other way. Maybe there's an argument to, if I look cool, I play good, right? But it's neither here nor there for today. Wisp is going to see the ghouls. Again, happy. Going to try to, get level 2, get level 3, but you need to do it safely. You do not want to take damage, economic damage. You don't want to lose ghouls. You don't want to lose your town portal early in order to achieve it. So we're going to see Happy how he's going to do that. Please is going to do quite a nice creep route. He's finishing this with the Archer with the Ancient War and going over here to the Crabton. This will give him level 2. Wisp going to get killed. This is nicely done. Actually blocks it. A lot of people would have used a coil there, but you could have used a coil. Happy going to run down. Why is he running down? I thought you said he wanted to creep level 3. Well, you want to creep level 3 safely. So he's running down to confirm what hero it is, because the hero is going to be either here, 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 or here, or here. Probably not here, though. He's going to be at one of the 4 main places I just pointed out. So, Happy and running down here, he can, 1, harass maybe a potential shop creep, if it's like a Demon Hunter or even a Keeper. Get some last hits. And 2, he's going to send his ghouls, which have researched Backpack to pick up the item from the Turtle Camp. And then he's going to be able to sell that item or give it to his hero. So he's safely creeping level 2 while ensuring that the Keeper or the Demon Hunter or the Warden even is not going to stop him from doing this. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Misses the last hit on there. Keeper running up. So I would say that you should not creep this now because the Keeper might be running to your base, but Happy's going to creep it anyway. A mistake? Maybe we'll find out. But the Keeper's running in. He has level 2. We've just teched. The Nerubian comes right after the tech, but the Keeper's here so early. Oh, Entangle, Treants. Oh, no, and the ghouls are coming back, but there's a coil, but there's another Entangle. And our Acolyte falls, and that is 20% of our income gone. The Surround even missed, so 2 mistakes from Happy. And he has to cancel his tech. And this is why it's crucial to put defending our base as priority number 1. To creep is nice. Happy really wanted to get level 2, but he pulled his ghouls even though the Keeper was going towards his base and the ghouls were not there to defend. If all those ghouls were there, all 8 of them, 7 of them at the current time, but there will be 8 in the future at least. If they were there, the keeper wouldn't have been able to do that, because he wouldn't have been able to stick around for that second entangle that he got at the end to kill it, and the treants would have died earlier. He would have been able to defend, but he got greedy and he went for that turtle camp despite the keeper going into his base, and because of it, he's got to cancel his tech. He's got to pay. So there's a mistake. Too greedy. Creep safely to level 3. Safely. But Happy is going to get the town portal out of it. He uses almost all of his mana to get it, but it's not a big deal. There's fountains on this map. And the ghouls nicely defend, but the tech is now delayed by maybe about 30-40 seconds. Probably about 40 seconds.
Player's forces are under attack.
Happy knows what hero it is, but he doesn't know the second step, expansion. So what's he doing with the skeleton? As soon as he has a breath of air to breathe, you know, a moment, he's going to send the skeleton down. He knows the keeper just town portaled home, so he can safely take this camp, because he knows the keeper is, if we go to Happy's vision for a second, either here or here or here. So the skeleton is going to confirm that the keeper's not here. And then he's going to check for the expansion, which could be potentially here, or even sometimes it'll be right here. And we see Happy going immediately there. And he's going to see the expansion. So now, again, to reiterate what I was saying last game, we've sort of narrowed it down to 2 strategies. And on this map, mass air is very common, because there's fountains that you can creep. It's very big, so it's nice for hit and run, because your expansion is safe, but you can sort of hit their base, and if they're really out of position, you can do a lot of damage. So it's good on this map, so it's very common for this to be the strategy of choice when you see an expansion, when you see a Keeper of the Grove on this map. He even sends a skeleton into the base to see, is there a Huntress Hall? He was a little bit early on the scout, but he has illusions, as we can see he got from the shop, which he can use to confirm even more scouting. He is level 3 on his Death Knight. What does that mean? What phase are we in? Well, we gain little bits of value. We're in phase 2. If you look down here, we're in phase 2. Right? So we want to gain little bits of value after we've gotten level 3, so the Staff of Teleportation is going to allow us to be aggressive, with also being able to get back to defend our base, with being able to get back to maybe save some ghouls, also get out of surrounds. So the Staff of Teleportation is very good for phase 2 of our strategy. And now we're level 3, so we're just going to try to get some archers. If we can cancel this expansion, that'd be great. If we can kill this wisp, if we can delay the creeping of the expansion, it's all gravy, because what are we waiting for at home? We're waiting for our tier 3 tech, which is a whiles away. So we have a lot of time to sort of kill, and we have a lot of time where we should try to gain some value. So that's what this Death Knight is going to try to do. Scouts the expansion. Not really cancelable at this time, but
Player's forces are under attack.
3 skeletons, 6 consoles, a couple of coils could maybe even snag a couple of archer kills, and that would be juicy, because we know all these archers, how many are there? 7 archers? That's going to be 7 Hippogriff Riders, if our intuition is correct, which our intuition is being confirmed by the illusion into the main base. So every archer we kill, we have now confirmed that it will be a dead Hippogriff Rider. Or, you know, a Hippogriff Rider that never was. Butterfly effect. There's no coils yet, so we can't really do much of killing, but we can delay. What are we delaying? This expansion from creeping. So this is, although it doesn't look like Happy's doing much, he's essentially every second is gold lost on Foggy's side, or on Please's side. Sorry. And in the meantime, we're just teching. What were our priorities? Lich, tier 3 tech at the same time, and then our slaughterhouse. And our tech is delayed because we had to rebuild that acolyte, remember? So Happy even pumps out 1 fiend in the meantime, and he can afford it because he has a little bit more gold before his tier 3 is done. Entangle. But we have the staff, remember. We have the staff, so we're always safe. We have a little bit more gold. Typically, we wouldn't buy the second rod, but we have a little bit more gold, so why not buy another rod? It can help us in our pressure. We know this is cool. Remember, safely gaining value, and value doesn't always have to be against archers, against wisps, delaying the expansion. Value doesn't always have to be that. He knows that Please has to creep this expansion right now. He knows that that's what he has to do. The expansion was already confirmed to be up. He saw Please running down with his whole army to creep it. So he's going to staff back home, pull every ghoul. His Lich isn't even out yet, right? It's not even out yet. And he's going to creep this lab. He's going to creep this lab because he knows he has time to get this little bit of value, which is this camp, without losing anything to entangle. And he's even going to send this illusion down to scout at the same time to make sure the keeper isn't just running up to creepjack him here. How cool is this? Little bits of value, and in this case, it's actually a pretty big chunk of value, but it's totally, completely safe. And that's what you have to do. Every time you go for a play, you have to ensure that it's totally safe, that you're not going to lose units, that you're not going to take economic damage. That's what you have to do against keeper.
A player's forces are under attack.
How cool is this? And he's going to get this whole camp. And he's totally safe because of the illusion, because of the fact that he knows his expansion is being crept. Brilliant. Brilliant by Happy. Brilliant. And, you know, he would love to have this experience on his Lich, but whatever. You know, whatever. You get a nice item. You get some more gold. It's all gravy. And the Lich is even going to get some experience, too. Potion Greater Heal. Can't complain with that. The tier 3 on the way, the Slaughterhouse on the way, the Fiends. You know, everything's probably going to go back, but the Skeleton's going to go scout. The Illusion did see this army sort of chilling. So maybe Happy thinks I can snag another camp. This might be getting to greed territory. All right? Maybe at this point, a decent play would be just to send everything back. Just send everything back to your main. Don't get too greedy, but Happy, with the beautiful scouting, as I'm always talking about, he sees both the heroes. He sees both of them. And he knows Please doesn't have a town portal from earlier, from that single Acolyte kill. So he knows that, you know, the Keeper, the Naga are here. There's no way of him going aggressive. So yet again, he can pull his units if he can snag another camp before tier 3. Snag another camp before tier 3. He's going to get Lich level 2, and I emphasized last game that if you're able to get Lich level 2 that before your push, that's really nice, because Frost Armor is great. It's great against Mass Air.
A player's forces are under attack.
So even more gravy is being poured for Happy right now. Ice cream. Sprinkles on the ice cream, you could say, if you're a Happy fan. And it's all because of good scouting. It's all because, you know, he's aware of what Please is able to do and not able to do. And what he's not able to do right now is go aggressive. No town portal. He's just crept his expansion. The map is really large. So all good stuff. Tier 3 tech about to be done. Again, using that staff to just get back a little bit quicker, because get as much value out of it as you can. Even sell as the Talisman of Evasion to be able to afford that orb. Please is going to take this, which is nice. Happy, maybe not necessarily in a position to fight yet, but he's almost got Destroyer form, so that's why he's feeling kind of confident. Although if he took a fight right now, he'd probably lose more than he killed. Please just took the cheese from the bread, and he's going to go back home and be happy. But yeah, Happy, you know, again, is it a mistake to come out this early? Maybe a little bit, but the Destroyer form is going to be done in another 20 seconds. Right? Frenzy's on the way as well. Web will be on the way after that, and Happy will be ready to go. But Happy this game hasn't actually killed any units. He hasn't killed any archers yet. And look how big the army is compared to the game we saw last, where Happy killed off, you know, essentially 3 hippogriffs. What Happy was able to gain this game is 2 camps, right? This one, and he was able to delay the expansion by about 20 seconds. So look at the mining, 800 gold only mined from this expansion, whereas in the previous it was about 2,000 in total. But same timing, right? Web, 3 fiends, 2 statues with Destroyer form. He's got orb, he even got a heal scroll. This game he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ghouls, and he left 2 at home. He's even got 6. There's 6 ghouls, left 2 at home. Same timing. A couple of less ghouls, same timing. Right? Nothing new. And this game, Happy hasn't even killed any extra units on top. He just delayed the expansion. We'll see how it goes. Gonna cancel this Ancient War. Wisp goes down. A lot of Novas. All the ghouls might fall. But all you have to do, you don't have to micro like Happy. All you have to do here, literally, we're going to see Happy not even do anything crazy in this fight. All he's going to do is shift attack his whole army on the webbed units. When something gets entangled, he's going to devour it with a Destroyer. He's going to Frost Armor it with a Lich, and then he's going to coil it. Other than that, he's going to focus his entire army on webbed units one at a time. That's all he's going to do. Nothing crazy. We're not even going to see him do any crazy splits or anything. He's going to win this fight with very basic micro. Very basic. He even focuses the illusion. Here, everything focused on this. Wait for there to be an entangle. He'll frost armor, he'll devour, and he'll coil. He's losing ghouls, but he's trading them for Hippogriff Riders. There's a entangle, devoured, a statue. If it fell earlier, I don't think it'd be even a big deal. We see, as long as he's just getting damage with his units, at this timing, he's so much stronger than Please that Please really can't do anything. He devours. If he loses his Fiend, it's still not a big deal because Please has no units left. He's still got 2 Fiends. See, just devours the entangle. And maybe there's a world in which Happy loses everything here, but also kills everything of Please. And is that all right? Is it all right if they both just trade every unit? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Well, he's got an expansion. Typically, you would say that it's not all right, right? But in the case of a strategy where you need a critical mass, I would say it's all right. I would say it's all right, because although you may have more economy as the Night Elf if you're both on 30 supply, you still got to wait for these units to be built. And in that time, Happy's going to get, again, 3 more Fiends. Maybe you keep your Destroyer alive. You can still push. And your heroes, in the meantime, when you're trading units, are getting much stronger than his. You're going to be able to kill this Naga in no time. You're going to be able to kill this Keeper with Coil Nova in no time. So even if Happy were to lose a few more units, if he loses this Fiend, if he lost maybe this Fiend, all he does is wait for maybe 2 more Fiends to come out, maybe even 3, and then just re-push. In the meantime, he can maybe take a Fountain, you know, maybe take this Lab. But if Happy were to lose a couple more units here, he would still be in a dominant position because he's kept Please, we talked about this at the start, on low supply. He's not allowing him to get a critical mass because he's trading units. He's not afraid to take fights. And in this case, yeah, he took a fight and he actually won it. And now he's still in a position to attack this expansion. But if not, just recuperate, get up to that 3 Fiend number, and go again with a mana pot. But if you do lose all your Fiends, you do have to back off. Yes, you do have to back off because you need Fiends to fight. But we see even here, Happy only has 1 Fiend left. These 2 ghouls aren't really doing anything. Essentially, Happy's lost everything but 1 Fiend and 1 Destroyer. So he's really, you know, he's macroing behind it, but he's essentially lost everything. Right, he lost 3 Fiends overall. He lost a statue. He lost 4 ghouls. I'm a fan of both players crashing. Nova, again, immediately using mana on the Wisp to deny the mining. And once you've traded all those Hippogriff Riders off, there's just Fairy Dragons. And Fairy Dragons not on a critical mass are not scary. Not scary. If Happy loses that Destroyer, is it a big deal? No, because he's got another one, and he's got a statue coming. So again, these units that Happy's saving with some nice micro, not a big deal. If he loses this Fiend, is it a big deal? No. But he's not going to lose it because he's happy. He even lost the Fiend. Okay, he did lose it. And he is happy, so I'm a liar. But, you know, there's a world in which maybe you've lost this Destroyer as well. Not a big deal. Because look how few units our opponent has. Because we've taken fights, because we killed some Wisps, and now we've killed the Keeper. Maybe this Destroyer falls. It does indeed fall, but there's just no units. There's just no units. There's just no units because we hit a clean timing. We had level 3 Death Knight. We got a lot of value without losing any units. Part of that clean timing is I haven't lost any ghouls early. I haven't lost any Fiends early. My tech hasn't been delayed too much, although we saw Happy even. His tech was delayed there. But it just didn't matter. You just hit a clean timing, and micro kind of goes out the window. There becomes a point in this strategy, which we're going to see in the next replay, where micro is very important. Because there gets, you know, you're not just always going to win when the Night Elf is below 60 supply. There's going to come points where the Night Elf gets to 70, 80 supply, and then micro becomes a very big deal. Did I save that Fiend? Did I not? But in these positions, when we're hitting a timing on 9 minutes, we don't need a micro well. We're stronger than him. We just have a better army than him at that time. So if we can use that timing to the max of our ability by trading off units, by denying mining at the expansion, by gaining hero levels, then we can sort of catapult that into later stages of the game where they're not able to get that critical mass. Right? So there's 2 replays, and you could argue Happy played pretty well. But there were more mistakes in the second game than the first. In this third game, we're going to see a lot of mistakes. But, you know, he's still happy. But we're going to see a few more mistakes. What are the major mistakes against Keeper? Well, not always micro mistakes, right? Because the micro's, you know, relatively basic until those supplies get up to really high. Then it becomes very difficult. But early on, the micro's very basic. Scouting mistakes are the big mistakes. You miss the expansion. You don't find out it's a Keeper early. You don't figure out that it's mass air early. You know, you miss hit and runs. You don't find him when he's going to hit your base. Scouting mistakes are the big mistakes to make in this sort of a game. Yeah, appreciate that, Theonness. I appreciate that. Okay, good. So replay 3, and this is going to be a long one. This is going to be a long replay. And as I said, this episode might go a little bit longer today. But yeah, this will be a little bit of a long replay, but we want to see what it's like when it gets past this stage, because we're not always just going to win it at 11 minutes, right? Although this timing will allow you to win a lot of games at 11 minutes if your opponent's going for this strategy. It's going to go past that sometimes. It's going to go past that. So here is game 3. Same map, same spawns, different build. Ooh, a different build. Different build. Ooh, why might there be a different build, Mr. Happy? Why might Happy be doing a different build here? He's against Foggy. Last game he was against Please. I don't think he would change his build, you know, just because he's against Please. Why might he do a different build? And, you know, this is interesting. It's the same map. It's the same spawn. Different player, but, you know, we've seen they're both capable of doing the same strategy, both Foggy and Please. So why might there be a different build? You say Foggy is better, but Happy has already shown that he likes going ghouls against Foggy. And I will say, I've watched other replays of him against Foggy on Concealed Hill, and Happy went ghouls there as well. Whereas this game, he's going for what we call Ted Fiends, which is Altar, Zig, Crypt, Shop, Graveyard, Zig, maybe Tech, and then Zig. Maybe not. The reason why Happy's doing a different build is simply because the last time him and Foggy played on Concealed Hill, Happy did a much different strategy. He went Keeper, yeah, but then he went Demon Hunter second and went Mass Dryads. And you could argue that going for Fiends early is better against that style than Ghouls. Right? You could argue. Whereas Ghouls are good against Demon Hunter, good against Warden, good against this Keeper Mass Fairy Dragon style because you're able to gain value while your Death Knight ensures that, you know, the Keeper's not going to harass you or anything. You're able to do the split creeping and get that crucial level 3. Whereas against Keeper Demon Hunter 1 base, you're not trying to stop an expansion. You're just trying to get a strong army early while still teching. So you could argue this is maybe better against the style that Foggy last did against Happy on this map. But it's still, everything's going to be the same. What isn't the same is now we know that it's Keeper earlier, but we're still going to try to creep, right? We still would love to get that level 3 safely. We would still love to get Destroyers as early as possible. We would still love to get value, you know, once we hit that level 3 if we're able to, although it's going to be difficult to hit that level 3, right? Because we don't have a lot of ghouls. So that's going to be one downside, but the upside is going to be we're a lot safer. We have a little bit of an earlier tech, but we're mostly a lot safer because we're going to get that early Nerubian. You know, our Death Knight isn't going to be creeping as greedily. We saw Happy go for this greedy creep with ghouls last game, and then he got punished for it. Whereas when you just have a Death Knight, you're not going to be that greedy, but we're not going to have an early level 3 because of it. So we know it's Keeper. We just need to ensure if it's an expansion or not. And Happy actually going to do something kind of nice. Going to use his skeletons and his ghouls, but he doesn't know where the Keeper is right now. If the Keeper was doing the same thing that Please did, this would be a mistake. But Happy, again, the same thing. Again, trying to find the keeper, and he does find the keeper. Gets level 2.
A player's forces are under attack.
And he's looking for the expansion. What was done before with skeletons is now going to be mostly done with the Death Knight because he just can't really creep much. Skeletons. Confirm there's no expansion. There could be an expansion here, though. That's the other spot it could be. There could be an expansion here. That's the third spot it could be. At the bottom spawn. No expansion yet for Foggy, but that is the piece of information we have to gain.
A player's forces are under attack.
Foggy has kind of juked Happy, who is looking for him. But he has got the Staff of Teleportation, again, to stay safe, because he's lost the Keeper. The Keeper could be going into his base, so he needs to stay safe. He's got that Nerubian. Same idea as if he was going Ghouls. He just maybe isn't going to be able to creep like this right now, but same idea. Staff bot for both players. What does Happy need to scout for? He needs to scout for the expansion. He's got a skeleton in the main base, but he's not scouting for an expansion. He's just sort of attacking wisps. Nice detonate from Foggy. Keeper getting close to level 3. He will get it off the expansion creep eventually, but Happy yet again has not scouted for an expansion, which it is now going up, but Happy still is in the dark as to what strategy Foggy's going for. Again, I reiterate, the last time they played on this map, Foggy played one base. He played Demon Hunter second, and he played 2 Ancient Allures Mass Triads. Still with this amount of archers. Still with 5 archers. We might see a 6th being built. There is a 6th. But Foggy doesn't, or Happy doesn't know that yet. But it was the same opener essentially, but then with 1 base and a Demon Hunter second. So maybe Foggy or Happy is a little bit expecting the same strat this game. But he hasn't scouted the expansion yet. So he still doesn't know what it is. He's still a little bit in the dark. Still tier 3 because we still need destroyers against Keeper of the Grove. Still Lich. And he is going to finally see the expansion. Is it cancelable? You could go for it. I imagine Foggy's going to respect it. He is going to run the Keeper down, the Archers down. The Keeper's so close to level 3. Again, we can go for this because the Staff of Teleportation allows us to do this. Without the Staff, this would be a lot more risky. Right? Not going to get the cancel. We see the Alchemist. We see the Keeper. So we now know it's going to be either Mass Archers or Mass Air. So what do we need to scout next? We need to scout the main base around the 6 o'clock position on the clock, which is, in fact, right now the tech should be done, and we've seen the Alchemist, so we know, in fact, it is done. We need to scout the main base to see is there a second Ancient of War, or is there wins. That's what we need to see. No level 3 Death Knight, so there's not much value to be gained, but we can at least delay this expansion. But it's not up yet. The Lich is coming across the map. Everything else is chilling in the main base. Same things apply. The Fiends are chilling. The statues will probably come across the map to help with this harassment, but the Fiends are going to chill until there's a Destroyer. But we'll see how much value Happy can gain with only level 1 coil. He's got 4 skeletons. That's one thing you can afford with Ted Fiends is some more rods. Rod of Necromancy, because, of course, you don't spend it on ghouls. Oh, this creep up for grabs. Nicely done. Coil Nova, and he's going to gain some value. Could even maybe get an Archer. And this is just, remember, it's all gravy. We're waiting for tier 3 tech. It's all gravy. And this is delaying the expansion. We even pick up a little Poacher. Can't complain with that. Tree Life is uprooting, but Happy is still delaying the expansion, right? Nova, why not? Can't do anything else right now. Going for a surround, that would be Happy things. But he doesn't get it, so we don't have to worry about that. This is a statue, of course, not a fiend. Just a statue. And look how much value it's going to get. Everything's hurt. And it can't be entangled. It can't be killed. And we're just waiting for our tier 3 tech. Same rules apply. Different opener, different maybe creep route, not level 3 Death Knight. But what do we need to do because we don't have level 3 Death Knight before we push this expansion? We need to get level 3 Death Knight still. We can't forget that this is crucial to get before hitting our 9-minute timing. So we have about 1 minute and 40 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer because we're delaying this expansion by so much. Maybe 2 minutes, let's say. 2.5 minutes. But we need to get Death Knight level 3. Just because we don't have it now doesn't mean we shouldn't have it ever. So we should add that to our list of goals still. Despite us being on step 2 here, we're harassing, we should still accomplish step 1. Maybe an archer could be killed. But you don't want to overcommit. You don't want to lose anything, of course. You don't want to lose anything at all, ideally. But so much delay has been done, and this is really nice from Happy. So much delay. Now he sees the air. He actually didn't scout the winds before, but now he has confirmed the air. What changes? He could just get web. He could just get web after this fiend. That's all that needs to change. Because he already knew there was only 2 options. Pretty much mass archers or mass air. So the only thing that changes, you have the same army, just get web. Staff back. Sells the staff. Should buy orb. There's the orb. Web should come after this. Destroyer form is almost done. Remember, we need level 3 Death Knight before we can push, though. So Happy's going to get it before he pushes. These 3 fiends were pulled in the base. Here's Web. There's Destroyer form. Same timing. What's different about this timing? Well, we don't have those ghouls. Did we say we needed those ghouls last game? And the game before that? No, we don't necessarily need them. They're just kind of nice. They're nice to pressure the Tree of Life.
Town is under siege.
Happy really trying to get level 3 Death Knight. Because his timing is delayed by the fact he needs level 3 Death Knight, he's able to afford Dark Ranger. Also, the fact that he hasn't invested in the ghouls. And here's a mistake. Here's a mistake. What should have Happy done? You remember, when you're about to push their expansion, if they think they cannot hold it, you need to be ready for the hit and run. Let's look in Happy's base. No Spirit Tower, not that he could afford it, but he did just pick up a Dark Ranger. No Scout. Does he have Rod Charges? He doesn't, but maybe you could have sent a Ghoul. Maybe we saw before, he sold his Staff of Teleportation. Maybe he could have kept it, put his Death Knight over here, but Happy is not prepared at all for this hit into his main base. He's not prepared at all. And yeah, he still has to get down here to deal with the expansion that has now just started mining. And if he's able to kill the expansion, it would have mined no gold at all. It hasn't even been fully saturated yet. But he's not ready for this hit into his main base. He's not ready at all. And he hasn't even attempted to scout for it. So this is a little bit of a mistake from Happy. Maybe if he saved a charge of Rod of Necromancy, maybe if he bought another Rod, maybe if he sent his Death Knight here to sort of check, or even just send a Ghoul, right? Just send a Ghoul. What do you need Lumber for? Nothing. He's got Web, he's got Destroyer form. He could sacrifice a Ghoul to sort of scout this area and be ready for it. At least he has a Town Portal, though, so he's going to be ready. But, he's going to take a lot more damage because of this lack of scouting. Even though he should have known that this was a big option for Foggy. A very big option. He's going down to the expansion.
A town is under siege.
Spirit Tower should be upgraded as soon as we possibly can here. Acolytes are being pulled. Remember we mentioned there's a position in which you should only try to do damage to the expansion. You shouldn't try to kill it. And this is one of those positions. We should try to force Foggy to repair, kill as many wisps as we can, and then Town Portal home. Because if we stay here until we kill that Tree of Life, we're going to lose our gold mine. Just simply going to lose our gold mine. So we need to, we're already here. We've already committed to being at the expansion. We need to just try to kill a few wisps. By doing that, we have to damage the Tree of Life first and then get back home. Because this is not it. This is not us killing the Tree of Life right now. This isn't going to happen. Again, Spirit Tower should be upgraded. But Happy nicely pulls his ghouls and his acolytes. But the gold mine's under pressure. Again, we got to kill some wisps. We force the wisp to repair. We should coil Nova these wisps, or at least Nova them. There's a Nova. Kills 2, maybe 3. Kills 3 wisps. And he saves his gold mine, forces the Town Portal out. Even kills a Fairy Dragon. Or two Hippogriff Riders. I'm sorry. And we see how much value he actually got. What did he lose? 1 Acolyte, right? 2 Acolytes? Seems to be 2 Acolytes. He lost 2 Acolytes, kept his gold mine alive, killed 2 Hippogriff Riders and 3 Wisps at the expansion. That is only mined 260 gold. So that trade is actually good for Happy overall. It looked really bad. It looked like, oh my god, I'm going to lose my gold mine. But it's actually worth. He damaged it enough to the point where he could kill some wisps, and then he got out of there. And what is he going to do now? What's Happy's next play? What's Happy's next play? What do you guys think? He's got no town portal. He's got an army that could certainly win a fight because the supplies are even. And as you guys know, if the supplies are even, the Night Elf is leaving his base to hit your base. Remember that. Remember that. If the supplies are even, the Night Elf is leaving. It's like a pyramid scheme quote. But, you know, it's true with this strategy. If the supplies are even, the Night Elf is not going to fight you. They're going to hit your base. And if they try to defend their expansion, they're going to lose the fight. So we should expect Foggy to try to hit Happy's base yet again. So what should Happy do? He's got no town portal. Going goldmine again, yes, Happy absolutely has to kill this expansion still. This should still be the top of his priority, but he has to do so in not taking so much damage, like, you know, losing all of his ziggurats, all of his acolytes in his goldmine, for instance. You can't, someone said earlier, you shouldn't base race with a Night Elf just to kill their expansion. That's absolutely true, but we still have to kill this expansion because we know if they're on 2 base for a really long time, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. They're going to be too high supply. It's going to be too high supply. So we need to kill the expansion, but we also need to keep ourselves safe. How do we keep ourselves safe? Well, we need a town portal. So what I would do right now, you probably sell this item, because look at our gold. Sell this item, probably. Maybe even sell the claws. But we need to get a town portal. We need to get 2 more acolytes on our gold mine, and we need to repair it up, and we need to get a spirit tower, and then we need to go back to this expansion. Right? But 1 tower is absolutely necessary as well. So we got to invest a lot of gold. We don't have the gold right now. We need to sell some items, absolutely. And yes, I have seen this replay. But having not seen this replay, I also said the same thing. So give me a little bit of credit. Okay, when I watched this replay for the first time, I said, okay, sell the invul and sell the ring of regeneration. And then he did it. But yeah, I have seen this replay. Okay, don't judge me. So he sells it. He can afford a town portal with that gold. He's still got his orb, he's still got his claws, and he just goes right back. His base isn't totally safe. Oh, he's got 4 acolytes. He's building the 5th, but he needs that spirit tower. He's repairing the gold mine. Needs that spirit tower. But at least he can do the same thing. He can kill 3 to 4 to 5 wisps and then get back home. Maybe he can even kill the expansion this time. 1 wisp goes down, but Foggy's still fully mining. We need to put enough damage, but here we go. Same thing, right? Because Foggy can't win a fight still. He can't win a fight. So we need to damage the Tree of Life. We need to kill as many wisps as we can, and we need to go home. We have a Nova. We have a coil. There's 1 wisp going down, 2 wisps, 3 wisps. Maybe we'll even get the Tree of Life, but will we lose our gold mine? Is it worth it? Debatable. If we get the Tree of Life, oh my god, but are we going to get the Tree of Life? Oh. Oh no. We all make mistakes sometimes. We all make mistakes on occasion, and even Happy bleeds his own blood on occasion as well, and Happy made a mistake here. Happy made a mistake, and that was a big mistake. It's a difficult position, right? It's a difficult position because we have to defend our main base. I'll show you guys the game. Our Haunted Gold Mine went down as well. We lost a couple of acolytes, and now Foggy's town portaling out, and you know what? His expansion is still up. But here's a thought experiment. We killed all 5 wisps. So, you know, this expansion isn't really up. It's just going to be able to be repaired. But if we killed this expansion, would it be a big difference? Yes. Yes, it would be a big difference. Because we wouldn't need to go back and attack the expansion again. We could prioritize defending our base. Even if we lost our Haunted Gold Mine, we would just be able to creep. Oh, we'd be able to creep this. We'd be able to creep this. You know, we'd stay safe. We'd be able to maybe pull this. Is this ogre dead? It's not actually dead. So we'd be able to pull that ogre. Maybe creep that. And we'd be able to do so while keeping our base safe. And we wouldn't have to worry about running all the way down here. So although the expansion isn't dead yet, we can be happy that we don't have to kill the Tree of Life. Right? Can you guys hear that? It's alright. There we go. Foggy's town portaling out. couple of acolytes are low, a couple of ghouls are low, but there's now the tower up, so we're a little bit safer. Again, we have no town portal, but we gotta go and kill this expansion again, man. We gotta kill it. Luckily, there's a shop by here where we can get a town portal. Right? Luckily for us, there's that. But again, what can Foggy do? He can't win a fight. He's got to go back into the base. At least we've got a spirit tower now, right? Killing the wisps. Again, it's not mining. This expansion's only mined 700 gold, but what it's allowed Foggy to do is kill our gold mine over and over again, right? By the way, Happy sold his orb and his claws now because he needs to. You can't just not mine, but he has killed the expansion. But now we gotta run back because we have no town portal. The expansion's dead, though. So again, I asked the question, is this worth it? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? We've killed the expansion. We've stopped Foggy from mining on 2 base for a very long time, but we've lost our gold mine. That's pretty much it. We've lost our gold mine and we've lost a bunch of mining time, probably about 3 minutes of mining time. But if we look back to the replay, we haven't lost any units yet. That's crucial. This timing at 9 minutes hits and we're at essentially 50 supply. Happy hasn't lost any power from that timing. He's still got level 3 Death Knight, level 2 Lich. He's still got his Destroyer, his statues, his Fiends with Web. He's still ready to fight. He's just lost his gold mine, right? So is it terrible for Happy? It feels terrible. I'm sure it feels really bad. I'm sure he's not having any fun right now. He sold his orb as well too. Yeah, it feels like a disaster. Feels like a disaster, right? But you know, it might be all right actually. We'll just look how much gold he's actually lost. Let's look at how bad of a position he's in. He's lost 1,600 gold. That's what, 2.5 minutes of mining about, right? Wait, let me think. Yeah, 2.5 minutes of mining. So he's lost 2.5 minutes, and he's going to lose about, another minute and a half, right? So he's going to be down about 2,000, 2,300 gold. But at the moment, the heroes aren't great for Foggy. Happy still crucially has this army. What's crucial for this is Happy's taken economic damage, but he hasn't taken army damage. His army is still as strong as it ever was, and that's crucial to remember, and he's not above upkeep. He's still got a fighting army where he can win a fight on the map because Foggy has been committing his extra gold from the second base into town portals, and he's also been losing units when he's been hitting. Like, every time he's come into the base, he's lost a couple of units as well, whereas Happy hasn't lost any units, just economic damage. Every time Foggy comes in, he loses the Fairy Dragon, a couple of Hippogriff Riders, loses the town portal. And slowly but surely, although Happy hasn't been mining for a very long time, the edge sort of balances out because we got the expansion. Would I say we're ahead here if we're Happy? No. But it's not as bad as it probably feels. Luckily, we're undead. We can unsummon. And we can rebuild our gold mine. We still got 3 acolytes. We still got almost the supply to rebuild those acolytes. We'll just need 1 more zig. And we have creeps by our base. Because now that we've killed the expansion, what do we have to do? We're finally on the 4th step. We didn't win on the 3rd. We just have to creep and defend our base. That's all we have to do. And we also have to continue to scout for an expansion, but we know we just killed the expansion. So creep and defend our base. And remember, Fairy Dragons are terrible on 1 base, right? They're terrible. They're terrible. Crystal Ball. Doesn't even matter what item we would have gotten. We still would have sold it, right? Destroyer, Fiend, ensuring that there'll be no hit and run, which Foggy is, of course, going to go for because he wants to get up another expansion. He might even be building one. There's another expansion. But it's still a long while before we have to commit to pushing that expansion again. Selling the altar, rebuilding that ziggurat, just creeping safely. And remember, Happy hasn't lost any units yet. He hasn't lost any actual fighting units. So Foggy still, despite doing so much economic damage, look at his army. There's no way he wins a fight. Look at it. This plus 3 fairy dragons is not good enough to win a fight.
A player's forces are under
It's
attack.
not good enough. Kill the sapper even. The little bit of gold that Foggy had, he invests into a sapper that's now been dead because Happy realizes he's just got to creep and defend his base. There's no expansion. Just creep and defend my base. Just creep and defend my base. And so we're going to see. Happy's just going to scout now. He's got the Destro over the trees. He's making sure that there's no crazy hit into his base. He would love to eventually scout if there's another expansion going up, but he knows he doesn't have to do that necessarily yet. Hey, look, we're mining again. How much gold was lost overall? Well, we still got to rebuild a couple of acolytes, but overall, quite a bit. 3,000 gold overall. 5 minutes of mining. But remember, we haven't lost any units. That's what's crucial about the strategy. We don't lose units. I'm Carson, not Remo. Goes for the surround. Not a big deal. What's nice about that sort of a surround is you're surrounding the ogre right here, and you're close to your base, so you can defend. So creeping and defending. Would we commit to this? No way.
A player's forces are under attack.
But we can pull the ogre, and we can surround it, and we can still defend our base. Realize we're down by 3,000 gold, but we're still even supply. Still even supply. Going for the pull again. Fails yet again. Even Happy makes mistakes. It's alright. Orb has finally been repurchased. And we're finally mining. The upside of losing our gold mine twice? Well, when the mains run out, we're going to have a few thousand more gold than our opponent. Upside of creeping close to our base, Foggy runs back in, and we're able to defend right away, and he's going to have to town portal out. Because remember, the supplies are even, and Foggy is leaving. And there he goes. He leaves. He didn't do anything there. All he did was town portal there. Now Foggy's breaking upkeep, but we're still not at a position where Foggy's able to win. He needs to be, remember we established this, probably above 60, 65 supply, where it gets really difficult for the undead. At this point, we're still alright. Finally getting that ogre. He can commit more to getting this ogre because he knows that Foggy just town portaled out. When he town portals out, he knows that Foggy's right here. School's just scouting. There's nothing crazy going on. And now we're in a similar situation that we are in maybe 10 minutes ago, right? 10, maybe 9 minutes ago. The expansion is just now getting up. We have our 50 supply army with the destroyer. And we need to push his expansion. So the game sort of reset in a way. And here goes Happy yet again. He knows that it's an expansion because he knows that's the only way Foggy can win is getting up an expansion again, because he wouldn't have the gold to transition on one base, so he's got to re-expand. So now Happy knows he has to push. The advantage for Foggy here, though, is that he's got a 10 supply advantage now. So he can actually maybe, instead of going into the main base, he can maybe actually win a fight and defend the expansion. But our goal here should be to trade units so that the Night Elf doesn't get up to that crucial 70-80 supply, and to try to stop some of this mining. You know, just trade units. Trading is totally fine. Just trade units. Definitely a losable fight for us. Definitely a losable fight. And it's alright if you get in this position and lose the game. It's alright. Is it a winnable fight for people other than Happy? It absolutely is. But is it difficult? Yes. It's difficult. So again, I say, it's alright if we lose here. We're going to lose sometimes here. If you lose your gold mine and you're down by 3,000 gold, sometimes you lose the game. But is it still winnable? It absolutely is still winnable because Foggy is just now mining on 2 base. Happy hasn't lost a single unit yet. Just we'll note that. Not a single unit. See, this is where the micro becomes very tricky when we have to start kiting. Whereas in the previous games, it was just sort of just shift click on the air units. Is Happy going to lose his first unit? Of course he doesn't, because he's Happy. Maybe he loses this. Okay, Happy loses 1 fiend. 1 fiend. 1 fiend overall. But what do? We have to go back to the expansion. So double mana pot. This is very common against this strategy. Buying 2 mana pots because we need to continuously fight. We need to literally push this expansion, kite back to our main base, and then push the expansion again. Because if the Night Elf is allowed to mine on 2 base, we will lose the game. So we have to trade units so they don't get up to a crucial supply of units and kill the expansion eventually. That's what we have to do. We can't be afraid to fight. We always have to fight. And Happy is not afraid to fight at all. Another Fiend gonna fall. See, it's tough, but the supplies are even right now. The supplies are even, so it looks spooky, but the supplies are even. Trading units. Happy's kind of saving everything, but even if he wasn't saving everything, if the supplies are even, the undead will win this fight still. Mana pot's coming into effect, very useful. And we've effectively traded down to a supply advantage. We're even going to kill some more. What do we have to do after we've won this fight, though? Does anything change after we've won this fight? No, of course. We have to run straight down here and kill the expansion. That's what we have to do.
A player's forces are under attack.
We just got to go. We got a town portal to get out if we need to, but we just need to go down. Foggy's now in a position where the supplies are even. So he's got to go hit the main base, and we should know that as Happy.
Town is under siege.
Happy does something absolutely crazy, which he just sold his town portal for a heal scroll. Don't know if I agree with that. But we'll see. How much damage is he going to take? Sapper, bot, 2 sappers, bot. Happy should know at this time what Foggy's going to do. And he should run back home immediately. Sapper kills the Ziggurat. Gonna kill another Ziggurat. Happy could be town portaling back home right now, but instead he has a heal scroll. So I would call selling that town portal for a heal scroll an objective mistake. Gonna lose a Fiend even. Always have a town portal against the strategy. Always have a town portal.
Player's forces are under attack.
Is it alright? How many acolytes? We have 4 acolytes left. I would say this is still alright, though, because we killed the expansion. This is less damage than we took when we first killed the expansion, right? Less damage. But we should have definitely had a town portal. Right? Still, now we've killed the expansion. What are we back to doing? We're back to defending our base and creeping. Defend our base and creep. Scout for another expansion attempt. But at this point, we know that Foggy's probably out of gold because we've been down by 3,000 gold the whole game. So we know that this Tree of Life is probably walking over, or a Tree of Ages in this case. But it's fine because although he's mining at an expansion, it's still one base. So there's no pressure for us to run over here and kill this gold mine. Because we're still mining. We still have about 5 minutes of time where we don't have to be pressured to push his expansion. Just creep and defend your base. I'm going to creep this. But I imagine Happy will try to go back. See, he is going back because he respects the hit and run more than he wants to creep, which is a crucial point. Defend, and then creep. In that order. Defend first, creep later. Same as in the early game when you're trying to get level 3 Death Knight. Defend first, creep level 3 Death Knight after. Always defend as a priority. Defend your base. Spirit Tower being upgraded. Happy chillin'. You know, this is kind of... See, you know, you have to defend your base and creep, but Happy's just going to do both at the same time. Make what you will of that. So, but one thing that's crucial, he has a destroyer with each side of his army. Whereas there is a destroyer with him right now. He's got a destroyer here. And he should have a destroyer with him right now. He should have a destroyer with both sides. Here's the destroyer. So he does have a destroyer with both the creeping army and the defending army, which is crucial because if there's no destroyer there, you're going to lose units to the keeper, right?
The town is under siege.
But this is, you know, a little bit high level, creeping and defending at the same time. But Happy's good enough to do this. You know, not everyone has to do this. This wasn't a game-winning play. He just like, okay, I'll creep the red while defending. It wasn't a game-winning play. Happy's still mining. Foggy is finally mining, but this isn't a 2-base economy. This is a 1-base economy elf, and if this, you know, if the economy's even, then the supplies are even, and if the supplies are even, then the undead is ahead. Mining away. There comes a point, though, when our main base is out, right? And then the Night Elf's main base has walked over to the expansion. And in that case, what do we have to do? Well, we have to keep the economy even. So we either have to somehow get an expansion up ourselves, or we have to try to kill their expansion and sort of all in it. So there'll come a point in this game, which won't always happen very often. This is a very strange game, a very extreme late game, where we're going to have to make that choice of whether to expand or whether to push and all in the Night Elf's Tree of Ages. In this case, Happy's going to choose to expand because he realizes he can defend pretty easily. And what you have to do then, if you've taken this expansion and you've accepted that the Night Elf is going to stay on this expansion, you pretty much just have to deny this. Then becomes the natural. You have to stop the Night Elf from ever getting this base. Because if they get this base, then they'll have 1, 2 bases, and your main will be mined out and you'll have 1. So we'll be back in the position where it's 2 base against 1. If it's 2 base against 1, we have to deal with one of those bases. So the same thing applies. The same rules. We're just in the late game. But same ideas. Same ideas. And Foggy's just trying to get value right now because he's only on 1 base. And if you're on 1 base, we look how bad his army feels. He's on 44 supply. He's banking to try to get up to 60 and 70, but you can't just break right into 70 supply fairies when you're on 1 base economy, right? You just can't do it. And that's why the strategy requires an expansion. Happy's the one breaking. And Happy lost his gold mine 3 times. But we see he's defending 1 base with this army. He's got a destroyer here. He's got 4 fiends. And he's defending the main base with his other 2 heroes. And the nice thing about having level 2 aura is he can always run this Death Knight, this Lich, and this destroyer to his main army if he needs to, if Foggy commits to a fight. But Foggy won't because he's at 43 supply fairy dragons. He can't ever win a fight. You kidding me? Can't ever win a fight. So again, all Happy needs to do is deny Foggy from getting a 2nd base, which he's going to do with just the Death Knight. There he goes. He denies it. It doesn't matter if Happy takes this. It just matters that Foggy doesn't ever get it. And that's how we win. Don't let the Night Elf have 2 base economy. I don't get why Foggy doesn't transition into something different, asked someone in the chat. Well, it's because if you're on 2 base, you absolutely can transition into something different, but on 1 base, he really doesn't have the economy. He would have to build 2 lores, and then either get Mountain Giant or Bear upgrades, which would take another 2 minutes. And then he'd need to start pumping bears, and he would need to immediately break upkeep with bears or Mountain Giants because he's already on 46 supply. So he'd be able to get maybe 2 bears, maybe 2 Mountain Giants, or let's say 3 bears, maybe 2 Mountain Giants. And that would be in about 4 minutes that he'd have that, maybe 5 minutes. And if he's already on 2 base, then you might as well just keep pumping fairy dragons because then you're able to get up to that critical mass. So you're kind of dead either way if you don't have an expo. This strategy very much relies on the Night Elf having an expansion, and it very much relies on the undead stopping that expansion, and that's why. You don't have the time nor the economy on 1 base to transition into lores, and lores are really what you would be able to transition into, right? Bears, Mountain Giants. Happy just defending. Just defending. He's got scouts all over the place, right? Because even though it's in the extreme late game, still remember what we have to be scouting for, right? Always be scouting for the economic harass. So he's sending his Death Knight here, making sure there's nothing going into this base. He's still defending his main base by this army being positioned here. You just got units all over the place. And a simpler way to do it would be just, again, to camp an army here, to camp an army here. You got towers, he can't push, you're safe. Continuously scout, but right now what Happy's doing is denying Foggy from even thinking about taking this middle base, and he's still positioned in such a way that he can defend his expansion at his main base. Main base is now out, so now Happy pretty much just has to worry about this. You just got to worry about 1 base now. And all Happy has to do is just chill. And he knows that he's won because the economy is even. He's just got to chill. Fiends are being upgraded, of course, and Happy has a huge supply advantage. There's no real way for Foggy to win. Like, even if he transitioned into Bears Mountain Giants, Happy would have even a bigger supply advantage at that point. But as it stands, 1 base now. It was even 2 base, 1 base for Happy. Soon to be 2 base, 1 base again for Happy. And this is just all because Happy really hasn't lost any units. You know, the only time this was really losable for Happy was this fight right here where he microed pretty nice. And the reason why this fight was so lopsided and that Happy actually needed to out-micro Foggy when he kited all the way back to his base is because he messed up and lost his gold mine and didn't actually kill the expansion. Let it live with 22 health. So Happy made a mistake, but then fixed that mistake through having the best micro of all time. Right? But there is a world in which he doesn't make that mistake, and then he doesn't have to out-micro Foggy so much. But as it stands, he did out-micro him in that one big fight, and now he's in this late-game position, where it's an easy win. We see still just beautifully scouting everything. This expansion, again, it's not necessary that Happy gets it up. It's just necessary that Foggy doesn't get it. But Happy, because he's so ahead, why not? Why not take it, right? Why not take it? It's just a matter of time. Really, 70 against 66 supply. Soon enough, Happy will be 80. Soon enough, he'll have 3/3 Fiends. His heroes are very, very good. Level 4 Dark Ranger. Soon to be level 5 Lich. Like, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. Just scouting. Just scouting. Like, Foggy has managed to get up to quite the scary army, but the supplies are even still, right? Foggy's even gotten 2-0 upgrades from this Huntress Hall that is now also getting, what's it called? The Moonwell upgrade. Wellsprings. But there's 2 heal scrolls, there's level 3 coil. Happy's almost at the point where he could probably attack, move, and win a fight. But being Happy, he won't attack, move, and win a fight. Foggy going into the expansion. This is a nice little play. Happy slipped up on his scouting. And now he's going to pay a little bit for it. But again, he's got this expansion mining as well. So not a big deal. But a nice play from Foggy. And he's going to get this gold mine. But he lost 1 Fairy Dragon over here. He might lose 2 here. He actually doesn't. Okay, so a Town Portal and a Fairy Dragon. He kills the gold mine. But again, Happy has this base. If Happy didn't have the middle base and he just lost his gold mine, maybe would have been a little bit worse for him. But the reason he missed the scout on this gold mine is because he was also defending this gold mine, right? Or else he probably would have had a scout ready and then not taken that much damage there. But as it stands, still 69 against 64 supply. Foggy on 5,000 gold. It's just a matter of time. One Fiend gonna fall. There's so many Fiends, though. 2 Fiends gonna fall. Coil, Frost Armor, Devour. Silence, because why not? Still even supply. Again, this could be a position where some players might lose, but that's alright. That's alright, because that's not the point. Right? Sometimes if you lose your gold mine 3 times, you just lose the game. And that's alright. But as it stands right now, Happy has so many Fiends that it's only a matter of time. This army looks scary until you start to kill about 5-6 Fairy Dragons, and then it's very easy, because there's just not enough damage to kill anything. But again, it's alright. We might lose this fight. We might lose this fight. Happy might have lost this fight. And that'll happen. That'll happen. What is something that Happy maybe could have done to prevent this fight being as close as it was? Is probably taking a fight even earlier. Instead of playing so passive. Again, you can keep their army low. Because as we talked about, once the elf gets up to, we were saying 75, 80 supply, Foggy happened to be 70 supply right there. It can become very difficult, and although we're very ahead, we can still lose fights in that position. Once the night elf gets up to 70, 75, 80 supply. And that's where Foggy was right there. But as it stands, the heroes are insane. And Happy's probably going to win. And there we go. Someone says in the chat, Happy didn't have to take the middle expansion, correct? No, he didn't. He could have just hung out by his expansion. I think one thing that could have been, of course, there were a lot of mistakes from Happy that game, which is why it got to that point, right? Despite in the other games it ending so early, there were, of course, some mistakes from Happy. Some scouting mistakes. Of course, not killing the expansion when he could have. Not having an early spirit tower. He let a sapper connect a couple of times, which maybe could be solved by keeping that staff of teleportation, staffing back, calling the sapper. But it's very difficult mistakes. And he also let Foggy get up to that crucial supply despite being on one base in the late game. He let him get up to 70 supply, and that's why, like, you know, if you let the Night Elf get up to 70, 75, 80 supply, I'll repeat again, you can just lose the fight. Even if you're very ahead, you can still just lose because it's a strong army when it's up to that crucial supply. So that's why it's a big deal to take fights, to trade units when you're at 50, 60 supply, and to not let the Night Elf get up to this huge Fairy Dragon army. Right? Any questions? We have one more replay. That was a little bit of a wacky replay, but I just wanted to show you sort of how it goes when you get into the late game and how it goes if you make a few mistakes. Because when we're analyzing happy replays, there's always going to be perfect games that you see, right? There's always going to be games that look like, you know, how am I supposed to do that? But there are games where you make mistakes and you get in positions, and this is a game where most players would have lost. But it's also, you know, it's to be stated that even though most players would have lost, we still see Happy follow the same rules and principles as though he was in a position to win, right? Same rules and principles as the 9-minute game on Amazonia that he won earlier. And this is a 33-minute long game. Same rules. Defend your base, deny the expansion, keep the economy even, try to trade off units. Someone asked in the chat, why aren't Gargs good against this? Well, just, you know, they would be if you're on even economy, right? Most things are good against this if you're on even economy. But, you know, Happy's not a player to go Gargs. And, you know, if the elf is on 2-base economy, they're probably going to be better. They also have Acid Bomb. They also don't just have to go Fairy Dragons. They could just go Hippogriffs, right? An Acid Bomb with Hippogriffs is pretty good. It's pretty good. You could also go into, like, Thorns Aura on your Keeper. You could retrain and go Thorns. There's a couple of things that are going to make it very difficult for you, and you're very more likely to be successful if you're going for Fiends. Say Happy played 2 or 3 games versus Foggy with Gargs. That's interesting. I haven't seen him play Gargs very often. Was the answer to Keeper Demon? We talked a little bit about that earlier, and I did see a bunch of replays where he was doing that. Yeah, that's a spooky strategy. It's a spooky strategy. All right, we got one more replay. And this is going to be the Happy perspective. We're going to turn off War 3 Booster. We're going to watch it from Happy's perspective. And as we know, the big thing about this, we don't want to focus on Happy's micro. We don't want to focus on it because, you know, no one has Happy's micro, right? And we're not going to have it. So how are we able to win without Happy's micro? Well, we scout as well as him. We scout as well as him. We react as well as him. And we hit as clean of timings as we possibly can. And hopefully win without having a micro. Because that should be always the goal with good strategy. You want to win without having a micro at all. And of course, we're going to need a little bit of micro, just a little. We got to be able to Coil Nova. We got to be able to save our Fiends. We got to be able to Frost Armor, Devour, Entangles. But generally, we don't have to micro as well as Happy if we scout well and hit a clean timing. Don't take damage early, like losing units, losing Acolytes, canceling our tech. So we're going to watch it from Happy's perspective without War 3 Booster. And we're going to try to see what we can do. All right. Ba-ba-bum. Let's turn off War 3 Booster. Alrighty. We're gonna get into game 4. And then I'm, of course, gonna take some questions, because I'm sure there's a lot of questions from today. All right. Let's do this. Boom. All right, last replay. Here we go. Last replay from Happy's perspective. War 3 booster is off. Still remember what we're scouting for. Still remember what our goals are early. Let's see. Back to the ghouls. And this is against Please again. But I will say there was some questions in the chat about, you know, does Happy go Ted Fiends more often? Of the replays I saw, and I know they played a series today that I actually haven't, the replays haven't been uploaded yet, so I haven't seen them. But of the games that I watched of Happy against Foggy, and there were a lot of them, he went ghouls almost every game. So ghouls are definitely Happy's preference, at least, you know, maybe not in the last couple of series, but, you know, most of the time they have been his preference. Happy's also kind of a cool player because he's always on the cutting edge of the meta, which I mentioned earlier. And when things change, they generally change because Happy is changing them. So Happy's sort of, you know, forced in a way to sort of innovate his style constantly, which we've seen him do quite often. Okay, but he's going to go ghouls. We remember ghouls, he'll get 8, 9, or 10 of them, depending on the map. On this map, he's preferred to get 8.
Summoning is complete.
Of course, the amount of ghouls you get changes depending on the map because you need to do some creeping with them. Right? There's a second Ziggurat. What are we going to do with this Ziggurat when we hit tier 2? Well, we're going to get a Nerubian. Is this Ziggurat a mistake? Well, yeah, it could be sappered. Could it maybe be like right here? We saw Happy build it right here before, which also makes it a little bit more out of the way for sappers. But as it stands here, these are two very sapperable Ziggurats. But it's all right. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Okay, we see a Wisp. If we're in Happy's position here, we still don't know what hero it is, right? We don't know what strategy it is. It could be many strategies. It could be Keeper Demon Hunter. It could be Demon Hunter. It could be Warden. It could be Mass Archers. It could be Lores. It could also be Mass Air. So we have to figure out what strategy it is. We also want to get that level 2 at least. Want to get that Aura. Want to get that Coil, which we already have. There's a successful Lightning Shield creep from Happy. We got our Rod of Necromancy. What are we going to do when we summon our first pair of skeletons? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Ba-ba-boom. What's the skeleton going to do? Where's it going to go? What's it going to look for? What's it going to look at? This is a constant against Night Elf. This is something you should always do. Unless you're Ted Fiends, right? In which case you have an Acolyte to do this for you. But the skeleton's going to scout. It's going to go down here because this is typically... You're expecting the Night Elf to Lightning Shield creep this. And then where else can they go? Well, they can go to the middle here. Most likely, but they can also go here or here. So the skeleton will go down if you don't see a hero here yet. You'll probably go over here. If you don't see it there, then you'll probably send your Death Knight here and try and find it. And if they're not in those 3 places, they're most likely here. But that's least of all. That's our 4th on our list of priorities. But yeah, we need to see what hero it is. Of course. We need to see what hero it is, because if we don't see what the first hero is, we can't just blind counter a strategy. Right? So we're going to get in level 2. We saw a Wisp go up, which we might be able to snag, actually. We have Coil, we have Aura, we could probably kill it, and there's the Keeper. There is the Keeper. Nice detonate, dodge. Our tech, and then what we want to get a Nerubian when we have enough gold. Another Wisp. Ooh, gets actually the attack off. And we're going to creep. Is this a mistake? Maybe a little bit. Because, again, we don't want to creep risky camps in front of the Keeper, and because of this, we're going to lose 1 ghoul. Please actually gets the last hit on that Cobalt, and he's going to get a 2nd ghoul. So a mistake from Happy. A little bit too aggressive, and we saw that on Concealed Hill as well, right? The first Concealed Hill game, we saw Happy get a little bit too greedy with his creeping, and then he took damage because of it. We saw him having to cancel his tech. And this was greedy. This was greedy because he didn't know where the Keeper was. He thought the Keeper was creeping this, but in fact the Keeper was going aggressive. and he lost 2 ghouls, and he got a last hit because of it. But now this is safe because he sees the keeper running over here. This is safe, so the ghouls are going to be able to get this, and if the keeper were to run over, just run the ghouls away. Pretty safe. And we see the keeper's going to try to creep jack us. Send the ghouls back right away. Raise some skellies, and we can finish this off, and this will be our level 3 if we're able to get both trappers. In the meantime, one of those skeletons, scatter the expansion. What does the expansion tell us? It means it's either mass archers or it's going to be mass air. Will not typically be an expansion if it will be Demon Hunter Lores second, right? That's what we know. Oh, this would be our level 3, but our opponent is playing very well and denies our level 3 yet again. Denied it right here. Denied it right here. Nicely done from our opponent. But luckily for us, despite our creeping not going as well as it could have, and despite losing a couple of ghouls, we still know pretty much it's one of 2 strategies. Buying a Staff of Teleportation. This is very interesting. This is very interesting. Staff of Teleportation. Bought from the shop, as has been a constant today. He's always happy, gotten a Staff of Teleportation. As soon as he goes to his expansion, he's threatening to cancel it with just the Death Knight right now. The ghouls are pulled. The boys are pulled, and they're going towards the middle. Now, this would be risky if he wasn't threatening to cancel the Tree of Life. Right? Because this, he sends the ghouls to the middle. He's going to get level 3 off this in the middle. Well, he knows the keeper has to come back to deny him from canceling this expansion. So this is safe, although it looks risky, because this is worth more than maybe Please getting a couple of ghoul kills, this expansion. He knows Please has to come back. So he knows he's safe to bring these ghouls out, and he also knows his Death Knight is safe because he has a Staff of Teleportation. So both sides of this are safe from happy, although it may look risky. Very cool. Very cool, very neat. Expect to see the keeper running down here in no time. The ghouls. Oh, they missed it. This is what Please was doing. He was actually creeping that in the meantime, getting level 3. But now, as expected, the keeper comes back and we staff back, actually snag that item, and now we can maybe go and get our level 3 here. We'll see what Happy decides to do. He's actually going to go to the corner. But again, we know the keeper's down here defending the expansion. So he's on the other side of the map. That allows us enough time to probably snag the item here. And snag level 3. Drops the cloak. Happy loves his items. This is probably so painful for him, but he's going to kill it. If he loves something, set it free. And he kills the Cloak of Shadows. Gets the Soapy Mask and gets level 3. And he hasn't lost anything except for those 2 ghouls in the beginning. He pulls the creeps. That's rough. Coils the Wisp in shame because he's like, I don't want you to see me. I'm losing all my health to creeps. This is rough. Get out of here. But Happy doesn't lose anything, and he's back to safety. One thing we haven't scouted for, we haven't scouted the main base to see if it's Winds or a second Ancient War. We also haven't confirmed if it's Demon Hunter second or Alchemist, Panda we've seen today, Naga we've seen today. We haven't confirmed the second hero, which we need to confirm because that confirms the strategy. You know, if it's a Demon Hunter, we know it's not going to be Mass Fairy Dragons most of the time. This is a stage in game where we also want to gain little bits of value, if we can, but we find the keeper. And we see Naga. This could, again, still mean it's Mass Archers. So we still would love to see if there's Winds or not at this point. Because Naga with Mass Archers, that's pretty good still. We're forced back. Banking the Fiends in the back of our base because we don't want to lose them to Entangle. The statue will eventually come and help us in our harassment, but as it stands right now, this is a spooky situation. Not getting surrounded. If that Lich died, it would be very unfortunate, but there was a mistake. Another potion force. That's 2 potions forced. But Happy sold a couple of items to be able to afford those potions. He sold the staff, he sold the slippers of agility, and now he's going to get some archers. There's a little bit of value gained, right? And this is just all downtime. All downtime. We're waiting for tier 3. We're waiting for destroyers. We got 1 archer. We could even maybe get a second. Now, although we haven't scouted the Winds, now we know that it's Mass Air, not Mass Archers. And because of that, what changes? We just need Web. After Frenzy, which takes 45 seconds. We will get web, which takes 30 seconds, and in that time, we're also getting destroyer form, and then we can push the expansion that we have already scouted for earlier. Right, so right now we're just buying time. We would love to maybe be able to kill another archer before more hippogriffs come out, because there's only been 2, 3, and 4 are on the way, but there was a couple more archers in that, right? But as it stands, not much to be gained. Happy knows, of course. This expansion's already planted. We saw a potion of greater heal on the Naga earlier, so we know the expansion's already been crept. So what can we do? Well, we could get maybe level 2 before pushing. Destroyer form is almost done, so we don't have to be too afraid anymore. We doesn't afraid of anything. A little bit of a mistake again. You know, we need to be ready for the hit and run around this timing, but luckily for Happy, he's also near his base to be ready for it. Good, and now we know he's out of there. We've dealt with the initial hit and run. We can go hit the expansion. What do we need to do in our main base? Probably get a spirit tower. We have a town portal, so we're ready for the next hit and run because we know that our opponent probably isn't going to try to defend their expansion because we're in a very strong position. Happy going to creep. He's going to get level 2. What's he doing with this Death Knight? Ooh, he's scouting for another hit and run. I would be surprised if he didn't go over here and make sure there's not another hit and run or send some sort of a unit. That would be a good play. Send a unit over here. There's only 2 paths on this map. They can run here, ooh, or they can run here, ooh, and get into your base. So if you cover one with your army and another one with your Death Knight, pretty safe. So he does scout that for a little while, but now he's just pretty much giving aura to the statue. He's got a town portal. He's got frenzy. He's got web. He's got destroyers, and he's going to the expansion. And will our opponent be able to defend it? The question, you know, already answered. We know our opponent can't really defend this timing. They need to go into our base, and they need to do a lot of damage, but we already have a spirit tower up. We even left a fiend. Now, what's our goal here? Either to kill the expansion or kill as many wisps as possible before having to go back and defend. 4 wisps. And we can maybe, because we've kept so many ghouls alive and we have frenzy, we can probably defend this. The only reason we town portal back home is if we're about to lose our haunted gold mine. Any other amount of damage is totally acceptable. And we kill the expansion, and now we can go back home. What damage did we take? We lost a fiend. We might have lost an acolyte. Not a big deal. Now, this is a time where you could maybe just town portal back home. Again, I said at the start of this, you have to make some caveats because this is Happy that we're watching, right? This is a position where maybe if you're playing this game, just town portal back home. Right, just town portal back home, be happy that you killed the expansion, be happy that his army is small, and be happy that you still have some creeps to creep by your base. Because at this point, you could just chill. You can creep, make sure that he's on one base the whole time. But Happy in this position knows that there's no way Please can break his base. And he's well aware that if there's a sapper coming, he's going to be able to deal with it with his 2 towers. So he's just going to push the base. But in this position, it's just town portal home. Whatever. Or run home. Right? But go home. Go home, pony boy. You don't need to push the base. But Happy's just going to go. And again, he just knows. He knows he can defend his base with just 2 towers. He knows he's not going to lose too many acolytes, and he knows that eventually Please is going to have to come home. But maybe you don't know. In which, if you're asking yourself that question, do I defend, do I attack? Just go defend. Just go defend. Don't risk it. Don't risk it. Just go. Be safe. But sometimes, as they say in StarCraft, if you have more stuff, just kill him. And Happy's just going to kill him. Look at how tiny the army is. This is... So we saw on Concealed Hill, Happy get in a position where he lost his gold mine, where the expansion didn't die on the initial push. But if the expansion dies on the initial push, look what our opponent has. I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. This is 31 supply. And he has 200 gold. 31 supply, 200 gold. And Happy, 41 supply, 200 gold. 10 supply advantage, and our army and our heroes are already better. This is what happens if you're able to win off a clean timing against the expansion and kill the expo. Although the Night Elf isn't dead, right? They still have even economy, but they have no expansion. They can't win. They can't win. Clean timing, minimize damage at home, win the game. Did Happy even need a micro this game? Did he even need a micro? Not really, right? Not really. He just sort of hit a timing and then won the game. Was there any crazy micro in that game? Let's think. He didn't land any surrounds. He didn't take any actual fights. He defended pretty well in his main base, but he essentially just ran all of his acolytes away. Right? And just focused stuff with the towers. Right? There wasn't anything miraculous. The only replay we've watched today where there was something miraculous was Concealed Hill. Right? That, I would say, is the one game where Happy should have definitely lost, was that third replay. Right? And that's where that caveat of sometimes Happy will do Happy things comes in. But other than that, these games, he didn't even really need to micro miraculously. There was nothing crazy. There was no miracles. There was no miracles here. There was just a solid game plan, minimizing the damage he was taking and hitting a very clean timing against the expansion with very nice scouting. The scouting won him the game. Scouting always won him the game. In 3 of 4 replays, right? Scouting, good timing, knowing what army he needs to beat the army of his opponent, knowing how much damage he can take in his main base before having to actually go back and defend. Right? He's weighing the loss from the gain when he's being attacked in his main base, but also attacking the expansion. He's weighing, you know, he's weighing like the whatever the law and order thing in America. You know, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then when we come back, we're going to take some questions from the chat, all right? Those are our 4 replays. Get your questions ready. Get your questions ready, because I want to be stumped. And I know we got some gamers in chat, so I expect brilliancy from your questions. All right, we'll be right back. All right. Hello. Hello. Let's turn this off. All right. So, are there any questions? I will say before the next week, the next episode is viewer replay submission. So if you guys want to submit your replays, you should go to the Discord. You can find that link at backtowarcraft.com. Or you can email me at carson@backtowarcraft.com. You can send me your replays. You can follow me on Twitter and you can send me them there. You can, you know, as I said at the beginning of the stream, if you want to get me your replays, you can get them to me. You know, send them to DirkKaiser47 at Twitch and he'll get them to me. You know, you can get them. You know, if you say something in the YouTube comments, like, you know, how to send you my replay. You can get them to me. You can get them. Don't worry about nothing. Don't worry about nothing. I got you guys. But the best way to get it is to join the Discord. There's a TheoryCraft channel in the Back to Warcraft Discord, or to email me. And we've gotten quite a bit of replay submissions. So it should be a good episode. And then, of course, after that will be the Night Elf week, which I'll tell you what it's going to be next week. So you should always stay tuned. I'm always going to do I'll announce the episode, next week's episode, you know, the week before, sort of thing. It'll be good for the interviews too, because then I do have an interview, a pretty good interview actually, lined up for this month for the fourth week. But I don't want to announce it too early because, you know, then the person feels pressured, and if they need to cancel last minute, they feel bad. So again, I'll announce it the week before. All right, Kaiser. Post Rod nerf, I find it difficult to keep pace, creeping, and scouting, especially if Elfcus detonate right off. Nice. Right off at nighttime due to vision difference. Any suggestion on managing skellies post Rod nerf? That's a really good question, and this is something I actually noticed. Something I actually learned when I was analyzing these replays this week from Happy is that the reason he's opening ghouls, of course with Ted Fiends it's going to be difficult, but always when Happy pulls ghouls, and he goes ghouls opening to creep, he'll pull enough ghouls that he could creep it without skeletons if he needs to. And then after he kills the first creep, he'll summon a pair of skeletons, but he'll send one to scout immediately. He won't use both of them to creep. He'll never have 2 with him to creep. And what he'll do with that scout skeleton is he'll look for all the potential trees that a wisp may be on, so that he can sort of paint a picture in his head of where are my opponent's wisps on the map. So he'll check all the standard places with that skeleton while he's going to find what hero it is. And I thought that was really cool. And he could do it with the second skeleton too. So the point is to have a creep route that if you do go ghouls, to be able to do it with just ghouls. Whereas if you go Ted Fiends against Elf, and that's kind of where the difficulty lies, is it's, you might get all your skeletons detonated if you go Ted Fiends. Which is why I think opening ghouls against Night Elf is very good, because it still allows you to be able to creep, even without the rod, because sometimes, especially on like maps like Last Refuge, there's those 2 wisp spots by the green camp. What are you supposed to do? Obviously, you creep the priest first and then, but still, there's so many safe wisps. Cruncher says nerf to CL. Hey man, you can watch episode 3. Think about nerf and CL. Although I didn't do it on human. Okay, maybe I'll do it on human in the future. Ba 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 ba. Happy to Foggy Dirty today. Foggy had like 7 chims and Happy slapped him. Yeah, but they've been going very back and forth recently. I haven't had the opportunity to watch the most recent replays, but obviously the last time they played, other than today, Foggy went Warden most games, actually. There's a lot of Warden, which is interesting. This obviously isn't the most common strategy, and I don't think it's the best strategy either. I do think Demon Hunter and Warden openers, or Keeper Demon Hunter, are probably better than Keeper Alchemist Mass Fairy Dragons, but this is a good strategy that people mix in, and especially at the lower levels, it's very common. I would say especially at the 1700 to 1900 MMR range, low Masters, mid Diamonds, whatever. Very common, and it's a strategy that a lot of people struggle with because it's relatively easy from the Night Elf side. All they have to do is keep their Tree of Life alive and just mass Fairy Dragons, but very difficult from the Undead's point of view if you allow them to get up to that 70 supplies. So it's a common strategy, very common. Bo, 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 bo. There was someone. When do we get the show match? Coach Remo versus Coach Carson, as soon as we're doing the 100,000 followers on Twitch thing. And by the way, if you're not followed on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, you should follow Back to Warcraft's Twitch, twitch.tv/Back to Warcraft. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube and you're watching on Twitch, you should go youtube.com/Back to Warcraft and subscribe to their YouTube. And you should follow their Twitter, and you should follow my Twitter too. But yeah, it's happening whenever we have the 100,000 follower show match. And I'm probably going to get 3-0'd by Remo the Demo Man, but that's all right. That's all right. The U.S. base casters are Bronze League, need more practice. Debatable. 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 Boo-doo-doo-ba-doo-boo-boo-boo. All right. Cool. That seems to be it. Shot per hero kill. Yeah, I think there's going to be something like that interesting for the stream. Most undead plays 70. Oh, 7 to 9. Yes. Or 8 to 10 is what I found with most happy games. Followed by Fiends mid-game. Many players counter this as mountain giants on a low to mid skill level. How do you deal with mountain giants? Right. So that's, of course, not what we were going over today. There are a lot of strategies for Night Elf, right? And we have to learn how to counter them, but that's why scouting is very important, of course. That's why we stress that you should scout the first and second hero. You should scout if there's an expansion, and you should scout the tech. And Happy wasn't always scouting the tech, but you should. If you're not happy, you should always. So you have to scout lots against Night Elf. And for these reasons that they have lots of strategies, so not just one strategy that's standard. There's, probably 5 viable strategies for Elf against Undead. What do you do against it? Well, Mountain Giants with Disease Cloud. Taking short fights and trying to kill a couple Dryads, get Disease Cloud on everything, and then get out. Trying to get an expansion up, trying to deny the Night Elf from having an expansion. Dragging the game out till late game, so that you have high hero levels, especially if they go Keeper and then Demon Hunter. If they go Demon Hunter and then something like Naga, Demon Hunter, and then something like Panda, it become a little bit more dicey. But if they go Keeper first, Demon Hunter second, if you can drag the game out later and your heroes get high level and their Demon Hunter is stuck on level 3, level 4, it could be a lot better for you. But generally, yeah, Disease Cloud, Mountain Giants, taking short fights. Stuff like that. But yeah, what you have to understand is we don't have like a crystal ball to see what our opponent is doing, and there's lots of viable strategies that our opponent can do. So we have to have an opening strategy that works against all of them. right? Which is why Happy goes for ghouls. He creeps level 2, and then he makes sure to scout lots and lots, and then reacts to what his opponent is doing. Because if we just don't scout, just creep blindly to level 3, and we don't have any information, and then our Lich comes out and we just creep our Lich, and we don't have any information, and then all of a sudden there's 6 Mountain Giants on the field, we haven't really played the game. We've just sort of crept, right? So it's very important to scout and to react and to change up our game plan depending on what our opponent is doing, because Undead against Night Elf, Undead is a reactionary race in this matchup. The Night Elf is the proactive race. They determine what you're doing as the Undead. The Night Elf does a strategy, and then you have to counter it, right? Unless there's like, the Undead fast expands, right? Then the Night Elf has to counter it. Or the Undead goes Gargs on tier 2. Well, then the Night Elf has to counter it, right? But other than that, if you're going standard Ghoul opener, standard Ted Fiends opener, then the Night Elf is the one dictating what your strategy is. So a lot of scouting. A lot of scouting. MGs are just a distraction, though, aren't they? They low damage. They are low damage, but they're quite a good distraction. They're quite a good distraction, which is why it's important, and that's a good point, to take these short fights and try to kill a couple of Dryads and then get out, to try to trade efficiently and get Disease Cloud on everything and then get out, because if you keep their Dryad numbers low, then yes, Mountain Giants aren't that great at the end of the day. They're just very good tanks, and Taunt is very good. Hello, Duck. Hello, Duck. We're just ending, but we are learning about Undead today. We're learning about Undead. That might be it. That might be it. Duck, do you have any questions? Yeah, so next week, viewer replay request, and then after that, it will be Night Elf, right? Night Elf Day. Should be a good one. Should be a good one. Because we can move out of Europe and go to Asia. And with Asia, although, Happy's an incredible player, maybe he's not always playing players that will challenge him too much. So we have these sort of skewed games that aren't, always totally balanced. But in Asia, if we're going to do someone like Moon or Loliet, we're going to find very, very good opponents for them to be challenged by, and the replays are going to have some juicy quality in them, which is nice. Is Necro Wagon's good against human with a Crypt Lord. It's very good. Next cast will be Remo, I believe, tonight. You'll see it on the end screen. Yeah, but thank you. This has been TheoryCraft episode 5, and I'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, for the viewer replay review. Please send me your replays. Comment if there's any ways I can improve the show. I'm always looking to improve. There was little tweaks today, and there'll be little tweaks next week, hopefully, as well, and we'll try to make it better and better and better. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much. Goodbye.